Orc's Desire by Celeste King.
I don't know what it is, but there's something about these orc stories that I just can't get enough of.
Oh, really? That wouldn't have anything to do with getting the unabridged versions from Worlds of Protheka.com, would it?
Hey, it's not my fault if YouTube can't handle all the heat these orcs are packing.
I bet that 30% discount doesn't hurt.
YouTube 30 is my new favourite phrase. I mean, who can resist? Especially when you can get an entire orc bundle at an even bigger discount.
All right, sweetheart. I think we should get back to work. We do have a story to narrate, you know?
As long as our listeners hit that like button and subscribe, we'll be able to keep putting out these free audiobooks for them to enjoy.
Leave a comment below to let us know what you think of this story.
This is Celeste King's Orc's Desire. Chapter 1. Kira. I can barely breathe. My lungs burn and my muscles ache, but I must keep pushing. I have to keep going, I remind myself. Everyone's lives depend on it, depend on us. My sister and I have been going through rigorous testing after the discovery of the Dawnstone. The camp knows that the two of us can withstand the magic it will take to destroy it, and now we have to be ready to face it. As I shift my stance, trying to find a better angle of attack, I catch a glimpse of my twin, Avalon. The strain on her face is painful to watch as she absorbs all the magic Caspian is throwing at her. Purple sparks fly over the sparse training ground, pushing Avalon so hard that her heels mark the dirt. She doesn't fall. Am I proud of that? Or terrified? It will be my turn again soon. I try to conserve as much energy as possible. Ah! Avalon yells. Caspian almost brings her to her knees. For a moment, I almost see a flicker of something in the dark elf's eyes as he looks at Avalon, but it vanishes quickly. His jaw tightens, and the purple magic that sparks from his fingertips only increases in intensity. "Steady yourself!" Caspian shouts at her. "I will not go easy. Give me all you got." Avalon rolls forward to avoid Caspian's latest strike. She ducks behind one of the fences lining the training grounds, and Caspian unleashes a bolt that blows it apart, exposing her behind the splintered wood. I dart out to save her before I can even think. "Av!" "Stay back," Caspian shouts. With effort, I bring my instincts to save my sister under control. I force myself to stop and watch as Caspian's bolt strikes Avalon. She is thrown back but doesn't stay down for long. "Now counter!" Caspian yells. His eyes widen as the magic flows through him, turning an eerie, milky white. She rushes at Caspian, who immediately throws another bolt at her. Avalon raises her hands as the bolt hits and stands firm against it. Her hands tighten against the magic, holding it firm even as they shake. Magic that would kill any other human sparks and sputters around her hands, trailing down her arms and legs. It looks as though she's tangled in string. Her entire body trembles as the bolt pushes against her, but she remains standing even as a drop of sweat falls from her temple. That's it, Caspian calls to her. I watch with pride as my sister resists the magic. I know I must do the same, not just the same. Better. I have to make them choose me. I have to dash. Pain, bright and sharp, dances over my body, twisting it grotesquely. It's all I can do to cry out. "Kira!" Avalon cries. I hit the ground with a heavy sound. The wind is knocked from my lungs, but I manage to scramble back onto my feet. "You were not focused," Caspian scolds me. And I hate myself because he's right. I should have been ready before, but I'm ready now. Caspian throws a bolt that hits the ground inches from my feet. I know I must stand my ground. It's about resistance now. I've come this far. Now I have to go further. "Try me, elf," I yell. "Don't tempt me, little girl," Caspian throws back at me. "You better run." But I won't run. This lesson isn't about running. It's not about hiding from the magic. I need to use the strength I have to resist his magic. I clear my head and prepare as the crackle and buzz surrounds Caspian. "Go, Kira!" Avalon shouts. It hits me before I even have a chance to try to absorb it, and it hurts. Once again, I'm thrown to the ground. My chin scrapes along the dirt. I swipe at it with my left hand absently. I'm bleeding. I don't care. Kira, I hear Avalon call out in worry. My nostrils are filled with brimstone and smoke. I cough, feeling it choke me. Get up, get up. I rise to my feet as quickly as I can. I must keep going. I can't let this beat me. Avalon rushes toward me. Stay back. I can do this. I shout at her. Alone. I look at Caspian, who appears unusually nervous. He usually loves pushing us as far as he can. Now he's frowning. Does he feel sorry for me? We can break, he suggests. No. Your wish is my command. He takes a little mocking bow, and his hands begin to quiver. My eyes remain firmly on his hands. I must travel as they travel, feel as they feel, move as they move. And I do. Caspian raises his hands. The strike makes its way toward me in slow motion, all dark purple and power. It's beautiful and dangerous, and I raise my hands to greet it. The force is overwhelming as it hits, but this time I'm prepared. I have the power to resist. That's it, Caspian shouts. Hold it. I summon all the strength I have, and I push back with all my might. I watch through the smoke and fire as I see Caspian begin to struggle. It's working. I close my eyes and see the faces of everyone who depends on me. Their legions give me the strength I need to beat this. And I do. The force disappears, and I fall to my knees. Avalon claps and cheers. Caspian approaches. A girl like you could move mountains, he says with a sly grin as he reaches his hand out to me. Avalon rushes over. We are going kick some dirty elf ass, she exclaims, then looks awkwardly at Caspian. Not you, Cass. She pulls it back and punches him jokingly on the shoulder. I don't miss how her gaze lingers on him after he speaks, or how Caspian stares back just long enough to be awkward before he clears his throat. My dear, I am more than just a dirty elf. I am a dirty, sneaky elf, Caspian says. He spins around on his feet and up into the air. With arm outstretched, he releases a little bolt. It zaps Avalon on the shoulder lightly, but with enough force to knock her to the ground arse first. I laugh. Never trust an elf, Caspian jokingly says as he turns and walks away. Now that he's gone, I collapse, exhausted, into the grass. That hurt, Avalon says, rubbing her shoulder. I think it hurts your ego more than anything else. She rolls her eyes and stretches out onto the grass next to me. We watch the clouds blow through the sky for a good minute. Both of us are too exhausted to move. I'm hungry. You're always hungry, I reply. No, I am not, she says, even though she always is. Well, it is almost dinner time, so let's go before the orcs eat everything as usual. I know, they're a pain in the arse, and no matter how many times I complain, still nothing is done about it. Avalon snaps back. What? You think they would give us our own mess tent or something? I joke. They're kind of in charge here. Well, that's what I suggested, but of course that dumbass Goruk now all loved up with Vela, and now he's pushing the whole orc and humans should interact more agenda, she says. Well, he has a point, I tell her. Yes, it's all well and good until you go up for seconds to find out the orcs have eaten everything in sight on their first sitting, Avalon complains. The road to diversity is paved with good intentions. Paved with greedy, fat orcs, you mean? Shouts echo around the camp and we both turn. Open the gates! An orc voice bellows. The gates open as we watch as cartloads of injured are rushed in. Oh no! Avalon grips my hand. Not more. We split up, and I make my way to one of the carts. I don't have much medical training, but I can carry supplies, so I bring bandages, medicines, whatever I can carry from the medical tent. There's not enough room for everyone to fit inside. An elder passes by the carts, performing triage. As I approach a cart he passes by, I see two orcs laying side by side. Their bodies are a mess. One is missing a leg and hand, the other missing both his eyes. Both are barely breathing. The blood flows out of them in torrents, and I know they have no chance of pulling through. It's such a horrible decision to make, but I have to make it. We can't waste the bandages. They're already bleeding out. We'll stay with them, one of the humans pushing the cart tells me. Everything is horrible, and then I see him. Javano. This one! Get him to the hospital now! I shout out. Hurry!
Chapter 2. Javano. He's one lucky orc, I'll say that. I hear a voice in the haze. I must find a way out of here. He needs rest now. I don't need rest. I need to fight. I'll check back on him tomorrow, the voice says. It's closer this time. I try to follow it, to dig myself out of whatever strange darkness that's trying to swallow me whole. My eyes snap open. I raise my head and look around. I try to figure out where I am. Damn, the hospital. Confined to a sick bed like some weakling. Javano, you must rest. Recover. A human nurse stares at me, frowning at the bandages that adorn my chest and abdomen. The pain is searing. I'm fine, I snap. You will be, yes, but you're not anywhere close to fine right now. Her voice is firm. I ignore it. I try to raise myself in my bed. The pain shoots through me like a dagger. Ah! The shout escapes me and I fall back down onto the bed. My own weakness infuriates me, but there's nothing to be done. I clench my fists while the nurse smiles sweetly. You see, rest, and you will live to fight another day, the nurse says. My body wants to do just that, but my mind knows the danger that lurks just outside this encampment. The elves are growing in number, growing stronger. If I rest, we might not have another day. How is he today? That voice is familiar. Captain Elias. I must speak with him. This damn mist again. Blackness pulls at my vision, and it's all I can do to stay awake. Another good night's sleep. He's well on his way, but I'd be happier if we kept an eye on him for a few more days. That's not the nurse. Not the same nurse anyway. I must have fallen asleep without realizing, damn it. Good. I'll leave him in your hands then, Elias says. I can hear him turning on his heels to leave. Fight, goddamn you! Captain! I call out, my eyes wide, the mist behind me. He turns and smiles. Javano, he says, pleased to see me awake. How are you feeling? Ready for duty, sir. I sit up taller, ignoring the black spots dancing on the fringes of my vision. He comes closer to me. Now, Javano, best you recover. It was a nasty business. You fought well and now deserve the opportunity to recover. I want to fight, I tell him firmly. And you will, just not today, Elias says. His voice is final. What about Warnis? Warnis is my friend, one of the most fearsome orcs I've ever known. Surely he... Elias pauses. Didn't make it. I'm sorry. Those bastard elves, I swear I will kill every last one of them. He died a hero, Javano. Saved a wagon load of kids. Took 10 elves down with him. Just like Warnis. He always wanted to go out in a blaze of glory. The war god will reward him, I tell Elias. Indeed he will, Elias says. Now, we will need you. But we need you strong, Javano. We need this fight to end. And with that, he turns and leaves. And I think about Warnis, and I think about those bastard elves, and my blood boils with rage. I don't want any more goddamn food! I bark at the tiny human at the bottom of my bed. For 5 days now, I've been in this bed. I'm sick of it. Sick of eating. Sick of sleeping. I just want to fight. Where is that healer? I yell at him. Bring him to me now! He's very busy, the tiny human nervously states. I don't care. I bellow. The tiny human takes a step back. Okay, sir, I'll find him, he tells me and hurries away. I sit up and swing my legs off the bed. No pain. See? I'm fine. I stand up, a little lightheaded perhaps, but that is to be expected. I put my hands on my hips, widen my legs apart slightly, strike a robust pose, and I wait for the healer to arrive. The tiny human ushers the healer in, and then quickly disappears. "Ah, Javano," he says. "Good to see you on your feet." I puff out my chest for better effect. I'm feeling much better. He raises his eyebrows. "I'm still not discharging you." "Damn it! I want to fight!" I shout, and bring my fist down on my bedside table, smashing it to pieces. The healer eyes me. "Sorry," I say. "Listen, I'll do you a deal. Seeing as you are on your feet and breaking my equipment, why not spend some of the day outside? No fighting, no training, just a little light walking and chilling. How does that sound?" He smiles. "It's better than sitting here getting soft and fat." "Deal." "Good. I'll check in with you tomorrow then," he says as he goes on his way. Freedom, I think as I step outside and suck in a mouthful of air. The sun is shining, and a gentle heat fills the camp. Busier than usual, I see. War keeps people busy, and busy is good, even if the war is not. I stroll across to check out what's happening at the training grounds. My legs are slightly stiff, but they'll loosen up soon enough. "Javano!" a voice calls out. Yaneric approaches. I notice he has a fresh limp. "Yaneric, good to see you," I greet him, and we embrace each other as warriors. "They've let you out, I see." Yaneric laughs. "Nearly, but not quite yet, your leg." I nod towards it. I traded 2 elf arms and a head for this limp. I say that's a good deal. He roars. "I think you got the better side of that deal, yes?" He lowers his head. "They got Warnis in the end, then?" "We shall have his revenge. No worry on that," I assure him. "We shall indeed. Now, how about some ale?" He slaps my shoulder, and as much as I would like it, it's best I pass. "Soon," I say. "The ale tent is always open." He laughs as he limps off. Near the training grounds, that elf Caspian, whom I still don't trust, speaks with the human twins. No one looks happy. Caspian puts his hands in the air and walks off, taking a seat at the end of the grounds. He crosses his legs, puts his chin in his right hand, and waits. "I don't care what you think. I should be the one." The twins, Kira and Avalon, glare at one another. They look similar, but Kira's eyes are deeper, more soulful. Maybe they're more prominent because of her slightly shorter hair. Whatever the reason, I've been drawn to her since I first saw them. It's why I stay away. "That portal will eat you alive. I'm stronger," Kira insists. "That's horse crap, and you know it. You're such a bitch sometimes, Kira, you know that?" It could be that she's arrogant, but I don't think that's the case. When her sister isn't looking, I can see the look in Kira's eyes. Desperation. She's trying to protect her. There are soldiers with less bravery. "Okay, that's enough," Caspian hisses at them. "Back to work. We have a war to win." "Kira, you're up," Caspian commands. I find a seat and settle down to observe. It beats being confined in a medical tent. Kira takes up position on the field. As Caspian's bolts begin to fly, I can't help but be impressed by the grace of Kira's movements and the strength of her resistance. This girl has guts. I'll give her that. Seeing her resilience and skill makes me think that this crazy plan might just work. With my involvement, of course.
Chapter 3. Kira. My head throbs as if it might burst, yet a sense of certainty steadies me. I've got this under control. The enchantment dissipates, and through the clearing smoke, I see Caspian's smile. He's been smiling more often ever since I started countering everything he throws my way. "Once more, Kira, once more," he says, his grin spreading. I glance over at Avalon, whose expression is as stormy as ever. It's really beginning to grate on me. But Avalon and I are sisters, twin sisters at that, and I've been reminded countless times that conflict is part of our bond. But this time, it feels different. What about me? Avalon mutters under her breath, and it irks me. I hate that she seems to want this assignment so badly, an assignment that the elders freely admit will likely destroy whoever attempts it. I've lost so much already. I can't lose her. Not this again, Avi, let it go, I say, trying to keep my cool. Ladies, please, can we not go through this again? Caspian interjects, his gaze sweeping the area as if searching for an escape. Caspian, even you can see I'm the stronger one, Avalon insists, locking eyes with him. Caspian stares at her for a second before shaking his head. It is not and will not be my decision. I am merely the magic man. He deflects, attempting to sidestep the confrontation. Really, is that the best you can do? Avalon pushes him. I am but a humble elf. He lies, as he takes an elaborate bow and a swift exit. I try to follow, but Avalon seems intent. Where are you going? She asks. You're boring me again. You are boring everyone with this nonsense, I tell her flatly. You're only doing this because you know I am right, she says. I stop, turn and face her. You just don't get it, don't you? I say. Get what? Avalon asks with a stupid look on her face. And what can I say? She might be slightly stronger, but I can't let her risk her life. She'll only work harder because she doesn't want me to risk mine. I hate this. There, right there, I tell her. If you got it, all this. In fact, I'll go one further. You shouldn't go because you just don't get it. Well, that made sense, sister, she replies, very coherent. Ah, I let out, clenching my fists in frustration. You are so annoying. Ah, she says with a smug look. That's because you know I'm right. Why, oh, why must you be like this? Why must you always be like this? Like what? Avalon replies. She crosses her arms. I know what you're trying to do here. It's not going to work. Forget it. I really can't be bothered anymore with her. I'm stronger than you, she says. If you think there's a chance I'm letting you go through that portal instead of me, you're dreaming. Do you really want to risk the fate of the entire world? You can't do it. You can't even beat me in practice. I boil over. Screw you, Avalon. I need to walk away now. That's it. Walk away like you always do. I ignore her. I love Avalon more than anything, and it's all I can do not to march back and punch her in the face. I need to get away from here. The last week has been draining, so I head toward the camp gates and dream of the freedom beyond. A wolf whistle rings out as I pass the ale tent. I ignore it, as I am well used to them. Hey, little lady, a gruff voice calls out. Come sit on Daddy's knee, followed by the usual roars of laughter from the accompanying orcs. It amazes me how dumb they are sometimes. I wonder what they might achieve if they didn't drown their brains in ale. They might actually evolve. I suppose Goruk is a case in point, probably the smartest orc and an example of what the orcs could be if they didn't spend their downtime getting drunk and trying to do anything that moved. And quite frankly, I refuse to be that anything that moves, so I hurry my little arse out of that situation toward the camp gates. Halt. Tather, an orc with long black hair, used to be a fierce warrior. After his leg injury fighting the dark elves, he takes guarding our camp just as seriously. Perhaps a little too seriously. Hey, Tathur. State your reason for leaving camp, he says. Well, I fought with my sister. You see, she's being a real bitch at the minute. So in order not to let the situation escalate any further that may result in permanent damage to our relationship, I thought it best I remove myself from the situation and take a walk in the woods. I finally take a breath. I hear you, Kira. My brother was a lot like that, Tathor replies. Tormented me for years, but the elves are in and out of these woods frequently. I don't want you caught in a raiding party. Hazen will have my head on a pike. I'll be careful, I assure him. How did things work out with your brother? He challenged me to a sparring match. I hit him on the head with his club, killed him stone dead. Tatha pauses as if remembering. Not something I am particularly proud of, but you can't dwell on the past, can you? Orcs. Probably best not to, Tathur, I say. He smiles at me. Ever onward and all that, eh? Yes, Tatha, ever onward. And you promise not to be killed or kidnapped by any stray elves. Honestly, today I think they'd be in more trouble than I would. I don't want to kill my sister, but damned if I don't feel like hurting someone. Open the gates, he bellows, which doesn't help my headache. The human next to him winces before he tugs on a rope with another orc to open the tall wooden gates. Any sign of trouble, you get yourself back here. If you're not back in an hour, I'll take that as trouble you can't get out of and come find you. Thank you, Tathur, I tell him with a little smile. Just doing my job, he says, even prouder. I exit the camp through the gates and nod to the human whose name I really should know but don't, and I head toward the forest. The gates are closed, I hear the human declare behind me, and I welcome the escape from Avalon, the portal, and the whole goddamn war, even if only for an hour. There's a river nearby that calls to me, and I intend to visit it. The scent of the forest is overwhelming as I look upward in awe of the ancient trees that populate it. I wonder what they have witnessed over these dark times, and what it was like before all this. This place I call home existed long before I was even thought of. It's thoughts such as these that ground me, and I am glad they are good to me when I need them most. Then I hear it, like a familiar song that soothes a baby to sleep, the constant water that flows. I walk through a clearing in the woods and sit beside the river. Watching the water flow, the anger towards Avalon disappears. A branch snaps behind me. Deep breath, Kira. I cast my hand around me to find a rock or something I can use to protect myself. This feels like trouble. What are you doing out here? A gruff voice demands. It's not safe. Javano. Most people wouldn't be relieved to find an orc like him in the woods. He's huge, with a cold sneer, black mohawk, and more piercings than I can count. Even in camp, he's regarded as one of the most terrifying warriors alive. Nothing I do is safe. I lean back on my hands and turn my attention back to the river. I see that you're healing well. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see him scowl. I expect him to stalk back off into the woods, but to my surprise, he lingers. I am Javano, he speaks. His tone is deep and sends my senses tingling. I know, I say, and then feel my cheeks heat up. His head tilts at that. I know you as well, he admits. Everyone knows me and my sister. We're the ones dodging a dark elf's magic every day. The ones who are supposed to save the world. No pressure. Do you come here often? I like water. Oh dear gods, really? Do you like water? Oh, for the god's sake, give up now. I might as well bury myself in the river mud. I sound like a drooling moron. I've never really thought about it, he says, a handsome smile forming his face much better than I have ever imagined it would. I wonder if he remembers that he saved my life.
Chapter 4. Javano. I watch the water as it slowly leads a leaf down its path, mesmerized by the gentle rhythm of nature. My body is rigid, ready for battle, but that is the case wherever I am. My mind, at least, is at peace. I sit next to her on the grassy bank, the sun warming our skin and the breeze playing with her short hair. There's scar tissue on her left arm from when I pulled her out of a burning wagon. I wonder if she remembers it was me. Probably not. But I've never forgotten. The way she looked at me, eyes wide, like I was some sort of hero. It's not a look I've seen again. Mostly people look at me with either respect or terror, which suits me. But even now she looks at me with neither. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching as birds flew overhead and insects scurry along the ground. I don't want my sister to die. She finally breaks the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. and she seems hell-bent on doing just that. I don't know what to say to that. Ah, that seems to work because she keeps speaking. It's hypocritical because she wants to save me too. We've lost everyone else, you know? But if we don't cross through the portal, we'll both die or worse. We'll both be enslaved by the elves, and I... She shakes her head. I'm just whining. Whatever happens, I'm going to cross through that portal. It has to be me. The weight of the entire future of the world rests on her slight frame. Kira tilts her chin in defiance, and something unfamiliar in my chest twists when I look at her. We do what we must, I reply, my own voice soft. Not many other options, she says. Not if you're brave. A rush of pink creeps over her cheeks as she looks away from me. I'm glad for it because looking at her directly is almost like looking at the sun. My entire body tingles whenever we make eye contact. Not much choice in that either, she says, looking at the water. I clear my throat. I have a story for you. Kira's eyes widen with curiosity as she turns her body towards me, fully engaged in what I'm about to share. The sunlight dances on her face, illuminating her delicate features and accentuating the intensity within her gaze. With a deep breath, I begin. It was the dead of winter. The cold bit through to our bones, freezing the land and numbing our spirits. Our clan was scattered across the frozen tundra, separated by vast expanses of treacherous terrain. I found myself stranded, I continue, my eyes fixed on the distant horizon beyond the water. My body is still rigid, ready for attack. I scan for threats automatically as I speak. Days away from our clan's stronghold, surrounded by nothing but vast stretches of white, the biting wind howled relentlessly. It tears at your furs when it's that cold and that strong, and when it rips apart your furs, it goes for your skin. Kira leans in closer. Survival became my only objective, I recount. The forest became both my shelter and my adversary. As I speak, memories flood back into my mind. The taste of snow on my lips, the crunch of frozen branches beneath my feet as I navigated the unforgiving landscape. It was the first time in my life that my enemy came from inside, I continue, my voice softening. It was the relentless despair, the gnawing fear that whispered in my ears with each passing day. Not the weather, not the cold. My biggest enemy was doubt. Kira's brow furrows and I see a flicker of understanding in her eyes. How did you make it out? She asks. By being a stubborn bastard. A smile tugs at the corners of my lips, mirroring the warmth that spreads through my chest when she laughs. Well, she says, that I can definitely do. Before I know it, the sun is starting to set in front of us. My stomach and chest ache, but I ignore them. The wounds are healing. Stiffness is to be expected. We should return to camp before dark. I stand to leave. Kira's hand shoots out, quickly grabbing mine. My reflexes have me grabbing both of her small wrists before I quickly drop them and take a step back. Kira stares up at me. Sorry, She interrupts me. Will you be my mentor? I stop in my tracks, staring in front of me before slowly turning. Her voice is sincere. I almost laugh. The thought of it is absurd. Doesn't she know? The chants around the clan, the name I've made for myself. Mutilator. I'm no teacher, nor could I ever pretend to be. It takes only one look at Kira to know that she's nothing like me. She's beautiful, yes, but also kind. The sort of person who would risk their life to save a loved one. I grew up an orphan. No siblings, no family, except for this clan that begrudgingly raised me to fight. That's what I'm good at. What I take pleasure in. Bloodshed and battle. What could she possibly learn from me? Absolutely not. The horror of it seeps into my voice. Her gaze shifts from hopeful to crestfallen. She lets out a harsh breath, and I turn before I can see her start to tear up. I want to pull her close to my chest, to soothe her, but that's not what I was made for. I'm a killer. The best thing I can do for her is to walk away.
Chapter 5. Kira. My shoulders slump as Javano walks away. I feel like a fool, putting myself out there like that just for him to reject me. His tall orc frame vanishes into the forest as he makes his way back to camp. I stand there motionless until I don't see him anymore. With a defeated sigh, I slowly start to make my way back to camp. The area around me darkens considerably fast, evening fading into night by the time I make it back to the gates. The roar of camp life starts to quiet down with the end of the day, and when my feet finally drag me back to my tent, Avalon is already sleeping soundly on her side of our space. I sit down, unlacing my boots and pulling them off silently as I try not to think about Javano. My heart still fluttering. His steely gaze, the soft rasp of his voice. I fall back into bed and stare up at the canvas roof in front of me. He already knew my name. The next morning, Avalon slips out of our tent before me. She's always doing that, sneaking out for extra training with Caspian, thinking I don't notice. I groan as I think about the day ahead. The truth is, she's doing better than me. Much better. She and Caspian have some sort of connection, at least on the battlefield. She reads him better than I do, anticipates his moves. I've tried to train privately with him as well, but she's always up earlier than I am, and he's nowhere to be found at night. I've never been a morning person. I pull myself out of bed, dressing and sliding my shoes on. I prepare myself for the day. My muscles still ache from the day before and the day before that, but there aren't any breaks. Not now. Caspian hasn't come out and said it, but I know that we'll be infiltrating the elf strongholds soon. I have to make sure it's me opening that portal. By the time I leave my tent, I'm ready for training. Heading over to the mess hall, I sit across from Avalon as we eat today's breakfast. She's sweaty and breathing hard, not even pretending as though she hasn't already been up for hours. Are you ready to spar? Avalon speaks in between bites, her body hunched over the table as she leans her elbows on the wood. Of course. I start to eat, yesterday's meeting still edging in the back of my mind. Avalon watches me for a moment, before pursing her lips. You got in late last night, she starts, and I quickly eat another bite to avoid answering. She watches me, clearly not dropping the subject. And you were up early. Her eyes narrow. And where were you? Maybe I was training with Caspian too. Maybe he worked me into his busy schedule. She shakes her head, certain. You weren't. I went hunting. I lie, taking another bite just as quick. I don't want to admit that I stared at a river for an hour or made a fool of myself in front of Javano. What did you bring back? Nothing. I almost caught a deer, but a rustling in the wind spooked it. Avalon scoffs lightly, standing up and stepping away from the table as she picks up her bowl. And you still think you have a shot on Protheka? See you on the field. She walks off without another word, leaving me staring into my bowl. I let out a heavy sigh, my appetite waning as I contemplate Avalon's skepticism. Protheka is a dangerous place, according to Caspian. Even if I beat Avalon, even if I survive the portal, it seems as though that world was designed to chew humans up and spit them out. But I remember what Javano told me. My biggest enemy is doubt. I finish the remainder of my breakfast and follow after Avalon. The clear morning air fills my lungs as I walk towards the training grounds. The camp is a hub of activity, orcs and humans going about their daily routines, their weapons glinting in the sunlight. As I approach the training field, I spot Caspian standing at its centre. His obsidian skin contrasts starkly against his pale silver hair, an emblem of his dark elven heritage. I ought to hate him. Dark elves took everything from me except my sister, and now it seems that he's determined to take her too. I can see the way he looks at her. He prefers her to me. He says that he has no choice in who's chosen, but I doubt it. Hazen will listen to his counsel. Caspian knows Protheka, knows magic. Enough doubt. I'll just have to prove him wrong. Avalon stands by Caspian's side, her short, sandy brown hair stirring in the light breeze. She flashes me a half-hearted smile before turning her focus back to Caspian, who begins to explain today's exercise. I glance around, seeing the growing crowd wanting to see the spectacle of magic on the training field. The longer our training's gone on, the more of a crowd we've begun to draw. Caspian's voice cuts through my thoughts, pulling me back to the present. Today you will fight each other, and your battlefield. I've enchanted these grounds to challenge you just as much, if not more so, than your opponent. He ends with a bow, backing up 10 paces. The winner will be the one standing in the end. Avalon and I take our positions at opposite ends of the training field. The grass beneath our feet is lush and vibrant, a stark contrast to the imminent chaos that awaits us. Caspian raises his hand, signalling the start of our battle. Instantly, a surge of energy courses through me, my heart pounding in anticipation. Avalon's eyes meet mine once again, and I can see the determination burning within her. Her expression is firm, her stance strong and unwavering. I know that she will not hold back, just as I won't. This is a test of our skills and resilience, a chance to prove ourselves. I need to win. The enchantments surrounding us come alive with a flicker of magic, shimmering and pulsating with an otherworldly energy. I can feel their presence like a humming current in the air, ready to challenge us at every turn. Without warning, the ground beneath Avalon's feet trembles as the first obstacle materializes before her. It is a swirling vortex of wind, its force threatening to pull her in. But she stands her ground, her eyes fixed ahead with unwavering focus. As the winds whip around her, Avalon's movements are fluid and precise. Her feet dig into the ground, anchoring her against the battering winds. I watch in awe as Avalon maneuvers effortlessly through the tempest. Every strike she makes with her hands against the wind is purposeful. The power behind her blows is palpable, sending shockwaves reverberating through the ground as she redirects the magic. She spins the vortex toward me, and by the time I dodge, she sends a spinning kick into my stomach. I catch her leg, throwing her to the ground, but she rolls and is back on her feet within seconds. Our movements become a symphony of clashing blows and swirling elemental forces. The hum of magic resonates in my ears as I block Avalon's strikes with deft precision, countering with calculated maneuvers of my own. The searing pain of her blows courses through me, but I refuse to yield. The battlefield transforms around us, morphing into a tangled forest of thorns and vines. They snake their way towards us, threatening to ensnare us in their thorny grip. But we navigate through the treacherous terrain as if it were an intricate dance, our bodies moving in perfect harmony. Avalon's agility is unmatched as she leaps and twirls over obstacles. We meet in the middle of the battlefield, bodies and weapons clashing as we fight. Her moves are faster, stronger, and she overpowers me. She forces me to my knees and holds my eyes as Caspian calls the fight in her favour. Avalon bends down as she spits out her words. "You will not be the one to seal the portal." Her bottom lip trembles for a moment before she presses her lips together. "You won't do that to me. I won't let you." I stare at the ground as she walks away, the magic dissipating around me as Caspian continues to drop the enchantments. I know that she's only trying to protect me, just like I'm trying to protect her. I love her more than anyone else on this planet. Of course she'd feel the same way about me, but I still can't let her win. I wait until the camp is quiet, Avalon sleeping across the room. I sneak out, quarterstaff in hand, as I make my way over to the training area. Emptied from today's training, I start the routine I spent the whole afternoon cultivating. I fight until my breaths are wheezing. My arms feel like jelly, my body's in shambles. I do it again the next night, and the next. My muscles burn from days without rest. I fall to my knees before rolling onto my back. The stars above me blur as I try to catch my breath. I feel so alone. With a huff of a sob, I brush my arm over my face, wiping away exhausted tears. Kira.
Rosenfire, our family holds great weight and power in Orthani, and yet I hear whispers.
Do you think he can take him?
There is no way that this could happen.
No, more books. I can't remain locked in this ivory tower a moment longer.
She's perfect. The Baron's daughter must be found.
Julius, we shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
I am not a full dark elf. I do not possess their ethereal beauty. How will I find a mate?
The lowly Baron's son apparently has shown that he has the same gift of fire-wielding as I, if not stronger.
I am the family's dirty little secret. I am not the future of the family. Dukan is.
This world was created from a seed of evil.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, let me go.
If you want to join the poor humans who are bought and sold in the markets on a daily basis, you will find a way to get there.
I am free, and I am terrified.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail. Get seasons 1 and 2 of the Dark Elf series from worldsofprotheka.com.
Protheka's magic is eternal. This series will show you why.
Chapter 6. Javano. Kira? Her body is sprawled before me, defeated. Her chest slowly rises and falls, but that is the extent of her movement. The fog of my breath fills the cold night air as I gruffly clear my throat, preparing to call out to her again. Kira, I insist, more firmly this time. My ragged voice rings into the stillness of the night. Kira's weary eyes look up to meet mine in full surprise. I'm not who she was expecting. She smiles anyway. Typically, most people don't smile when they're surprised by someone like me. It's bizarre, but I'm forced to admit to myself that it isn't unwelcome, even if it should be. Then she smiles. My heart stutters in my chest. I quickly avert my gaze, chastising myself for allowing such thoughts to cloud my judgment. I'm here to help Kira, not to succumb to the allure of her beauty. But as much as I try to ignore it, there is an undeniable pull that tugs at my every fiber. Is there... I clear my throat, trying to make my voice softer, less threatening. Is this a new training technique? Her chest rises and falls in silent laughter. Best one I can manage at the moment. The moon casts a pale, ethereal glow, illuminating the world around us with a touch of magic. It dances in her hair, shimmering like sugar, and I catch myself momentarily transfixed by its radiance. It's just hair. There are more important matters at hand. I know you said you wouldn't mentor me, she says, sitting up. Dirt clings to her knees and her hair is wet with sweat. She's beautiful. But you were right, she continues, about doubt being my enemy. I don't want to doubt myself anymore. I know that I can do this, and I know I can do this faster if you help me. Kira lifts her chin. With a slight nod, I gesture for her to follow me. Together, we walk towards the center of the empty training ring, our steps echoing in the silence of the night. As we get closer, I sense Kira's anticipation growing. She's a fighter. Not like me, not a killer, but I can recognize the same eagerness in her eyes that I feel before a battle. She loves this. Her eyes gleam with excitement. Her whole being radiates with an energy that matches my own despite her exhaustion. I step forward, my body poised like a coiled serpent, ready to strike. In a swift motion, I demonstrate the first move meant to incapacitate an opponent. My hands move with precision, each strike infused with years of mastery. The air whistles around us as I unleash a flurry of blows to my imaginary opponent. Watch closely, I instruct, my voice commanding her attention. The key is to assess your opponent's weaknesses and exploit them mercilessly. With that, I demonstrate a series of moves, and Kira copies them, practicing until her movements are almost flawless. The sound of our fists meeting the air whistles through the night. Kira's eyes trace every movement. She absorbs every detail. There is a hunger in her eyes. It helps if you cause the weakness you then exploit, I say, demonstrating a kick. Go for the knees first, and then keep at that side of their body. Show me. Obediently, she demonstrates the same kick. Now on the training dummy. Time becomes irrelevant as we continue to spar into the night. The waning moonlight casts elongated silhouettes around us, as if the very shadows themselves are observing our dance. Beads of sweat trickle down Kira's brow, but she pays them no mind. Her focus is unyielding. I wish I could say the same of mine. She grunts as she kicks the dummy with such force that it crashes to the ground, and then she pounces, straddling it and bringing her hand to where its throat would be. She grins at me, and I can't help but think that this is what she would sound like in bed. This is how she would look on top of me, riding me. Kick lower, I say, not meeting her eyes. And faster. Too high, too slow, and they'll catch your leg. She does the same move again. This is torture. While we train, I correct the awkward movements of her body, guiding her limbs into proper position. With every touch of her skin, I ache to touch her more. Enough sparring, I say. I'm breathing hard, but it's not from working out. Damn. Dark elves believe they are masters of stealth. That means that they don't expect orcs or humans to use the same tactics. I guide Kira through a series of exercises designed to sharpen her senses and enhance her perception. We practice moving silently through the night, our footsteps so light that even the wind struggles to carry their echo. I show her how to blend into shadows, becoming nothing more than a flicker of movement on the periphery. Remember, when facing a dark elf, your goal is not to incapacitate. It's to kill. These creatures are powerful and resilient. Leave them alive and they'll make you regret it. Kira bites her lip. What about Caspian? I snort. I'm still not sure of him, are you? I trust him. She looks surprised to say this out loud. I admit it was a process. I believe that he wants to destroy the stone, at least. As for his motives... She shrugs. I wonder what it must be like for her to depend on a dark elf like this, to risk her life on one's word when they once held her captive. She'd been so thin when I carried her from that cart, like a bird. I glance down at the scars on her left arm and she looks at them with me. A sardonic smile twists her lips. You saved me. Remember? I nod. I never said thank you. Why would you? I shook my head. I don't want thanks for that. Anyone would have done the same. She rolls her eyes. You haven't met many orcs, then. They talk about you. I hear them. They call you... the Mutilator. It's bullcrap. It's not. I need her to understand. I've ripped the heads off our enemies with my bare hands. Yeah, well, I was held captive by those ass clowns. I can safely say they had it coming. Her jaw tightens. And those same assholes who whistle at me whenever I walk past, who taunt me every day. They were nowhere to be seen when that cart was set aflame. You rushed into fire to save humans you didn't even know. Kira's eyes are glossy when she looks up at the stars, but she blinks the moisture away quickly. I don't care what they call you. I clear my throat. Let's work on blocking techniques. I meet Kira's every success with a curt nod, pushing her to define her technique. The more she listens, the more I find myself softening toward her. It's as if she's unlocked a side of me that has long been dormant, a side that yearns for connection and purpose beyond the confines of my solitary existence. Her hands slide down my chest, her legs tangle with mine. The shock of her touch, the heat of it, sends me to the ground more than her technique. I roll her beneath me, grabbing her wrist with one hand before she can elbow my throat. Her heartbeat is rapid. I can see her vein pulsing in her throat. I want to taste it. Her lips part. I stand. Again.
Chapter 7. Kira. The shadows stretch across the training grounds, their lengths reaching out like tendrils, eager to ensnare the unwary. The moon hangs low in the sky, bathing us in its eerie glow as we move in perfect synchronization. Our wooden swords clash, the sound echoing through the night. Our dance becomes more intense, each parry and counter carrying an undercurrent of something deeper, something neither of us can name. My concentration falters with every strike, the heat of his gaze igniting a fire that threatens to consume me. Every night, it's getting worse. In the mornings, I crawl back into my tent, frustrated and exhausted, just long enough to dream of him before I wake to train again. In my dreams, he doesn't rise when he pushes me to the ground. In my dreams, his mouth finds the base of my throat, and he... "Remember the basics," he growls, his voice rough and strained as he deflects my oncoming attack. "You're losing your footing." "Sorry," I whisper, my breath hitching as I try to regain control, but it's useless. I'm drowning in a storm of emotions that rage inside me, and his nearness only serves to intensify them. Frustration, exhaustion, longing, they twist painfully in my gut every time I look at him. "Where is your focus today?" he asks, his voice sharp. Before I can respond, he stops and strips off his sweat-damp shirt in one smooth motion. I quickly avert my eyes from his chiseled, tattooed chest and sculpted abs, nearly blushing at the sight of all that bare, hardened muscle. Damn him. We continue sparring under the moonlight in tense silence. I attack with renewed aggression, but my technique is sloppy as I struggle to clear my conflicted head. I throw a wild punch that he sidesteps easily. My momentum carries me stumbling forward directly into his path. Our sweaty bodies collide hard. Instinctively, his arms come around me, steadying my fall. For a heartbeat, I'm enveloped in his raw strength, breathing him in. I can feel every tensed muscle, the heat radiating from his naked torso, his ragged exhales stirring my hair as we stand frozen. My pulse hammers wildly. His hand steadies me, gripping my back firmly against his own body. He's hard. I can feel the length of him against my stomach, and a jolt shoots up my spine at the contact. Our gazes lock, an unspoken conversation blooming between us. I can't help but move a bit against him, pressing closer. He feels even better against me than I dreamed. "Watch it." His voice is barely audible, a tortured whisper that sends shivers down my spine. The invisible string that draws us together tightens, our faces inching closer, the promise of a kiss dangling tantalizingly before us. He makes a rough sound and turns around. I stare at the broad expanse of his back. He wants this, except he doesn't. If he did, he wouldn't be facing away from me right now. Right. I clear my throat, taking a small step back. I can still feel the heat of his skin. He's so close to me, yet so far. Time seems to stand still, the connection between us crackling with intensity. Every rational thought is eclipsed by the need to close the distance, to taste his lips, and savour the feel of him against me. "We'll resume tomorrow," he says, not looking at me. "Javano." I trail off. I don't know what to say. Please do me so I can concentrate better on our sparring. Please stop making me want you because I need to save my sister's life. Please bend me over that training dummy because I'm going to die anyway soon, so what does it even matter? Please. I need to go. I reach out to him, my hand trembling, but he's already gone, leaving me aching with the ghost of what could have been. My lips are untouched, yet they burn with the phantom imprint of his. As I stand there, clutching my chest, the weight of my longing for Javano anchors me to the spot. My mind races with questions about our future. What should I do about this? Does he feel the same way, with the way he looks at me, or am I reading too much into this? I march back to my tent, knowing that I'll be dreaming about him again either way.
Chapter 8. Javano. I should be glad to be back on duty. This is what I've been demanding since my injury. We'll take the left side of the perimeter. I growl at the young orc on patrol with me, and his skin turns pale green. The only orc I ever patrolled with was Warnus, and he's dead. Do you have a preference, then? He's no coward, I'll give him that. He's frightened of me, but he speaks his mind with a hint of annoyance on his tongue. We were ordered to patrol, not stomp around all moody. The other two orcs on patrol with us grin at each other until I turn my glare towards them. They aren't half as brave as this reed-thin orc beside me. We'll take the left, I say. He falls into step beside me. At least he's quiet. I'm not in the mood for conversation. 3 days have passed since I last saw Kira. 3 days of volunteering for patrol, avoiding any place or person that might lead me to her. I, who have never shied away from anything, now find myself running from my own emotions. They consume me, overwhelming my senses and leaving me adrift. I want her. She knows I want her. Man, the way she looked up at me. She lingers in my mind like a persistent ghost. Her laughter echoes faintly, her smile flickering in and out of memory. The phantom warmth of her embrace wraps around me. Each recollected moment heightens the dull ache inside, a hollowness I cannot seem to shake. Girl trouble? The younger orc asks. I snarl. You're just as friendly as they say. He rolls his eyes. Can you focus on patrol, please? I'd like to survive tonight if poss. A branch snaps, loud in the silence. I start, blinking, struggling to focus. How could I let my guard down? If the captain saw me now, distracted as a love-struck youth. I strain my senses, cursing myself. Have the dark elves returned? I grip my sword tighter, forcing myself alert. An enemy could be anywhere in these shadows. I cannot fail again. The young orc frowns into the darkness, trying to make out whoever might be approaching. I can't help but wish it were Ornus at my side. Sliding into a fighting stance, my eyes narrow. The forest holds its breath, and I wait, ready. My feet dig into the soft soil of the forest floor, grounding me as I wait in my fighting stance. My grip on my sword is firm, the familiar weight and texture of the hilt reassuring in my hand. The shadows tremble, shifting and merging until they take shape as slender, graceful figures. Dark elves, their weapons glistening with malevolent intent. Rage wars with shame inside me. I should have noticed them, should have reacted sooner. The young orc beside me swallows. 10 of them, he whispers. His voice doesn't tremble, but I see that his hands shake. What is your name? I murmur. His hands tighten on the hilt of his axe. Ranton. Ranton. I will pull out their spines before the night is through. I raise my voice. One by one. I'll leave them in a pile for the wolves to feast on. Ranton swallows hard. Sounds like a plan. I wave my long two-handed blade ahead of me, drawing a line in the ground in front of me, and grunt at them. So on with it then. Or are you just going to dance in the shadows like cowards? No more. With a roar, I charge, my sword swinging. Surprise flickers in their eyes. They expected an easy kill, a distracted guard. They did not expect the mutilator. With a fierce shout, I bring my sword down upon the first elf that reaches me. Our blades clash and sparks fly as we engage in a deadly dance. I feel the weight of each strike as our weapons meet, and I bare my teeth. Try me. As I continue to fend off the first elf, 2 more appear behind Ranton. They circle around him, trying to catch him off guard. With my left hand, I shove an attacking elf to the ground, stick him through the throat with my blade, and tear off his head. I roll his head towards the elves' feet, and they stumble back in disgust. Ranton uses the distraction to cleave an elf in the chest. His axe sticks, and an elf advances on him as he struggles to pull it free. I manage to knock the attacking elf off balance with a swift kick, causing him to stumble back into his comrade and giving Ranton a brief moment of reprieve. But before we can fully take advantage of it, another elf charges at us from the side. Look out! Ranton shouts. I quickly pivot on my feet and use my momentum to swing my sword in an arc towards his direction. The blade slices through the air and cuts deep into his flesh, causing him to cry out in pain before falling to the ground. The remaining 3 dark elves close in on us, their eyes filled with fury and fear in equal measure. Blood drips from my sword, a reminder of the lives I have taken in this brief but intense battle. But there is no time for celebration. These elves will not stop until one of us falls. I dodge and weave between their attacks, my movements fluid and precise. Ranton provides cover, driving back elves that advance. But he's a defensive fighter. This won't end without a decisive show of strength, and I'm leery of drawing more elves towards us, elves who might have magic on their side. In a sudden burst of speed, one of the elves lunges at me with a dagger. I block his strike with my sword, but feel a searing pain as the blade grazes my arm. Ignoring the injury, I counter with a swift kick to his side, sending him stumbling back. The other 2 elves attack simultaneously, making it difficult for me to defend against both of them at once. Ranton swings his axe wildly, but these fighters are more experienced than he is. An elf drives him to the ground, raising his small blade high. With a fierce battle cry, I launch into an offensive frenzy. The elf falls, choking on his own blood. My sword slashes through the air as I take down one elf after another. They try to fight back, but it's clear that they are struggling against my strength and skill. In moments, it's all over. The dark elves lay defeated at my feet, their bodies lifeless and their weapons scattered on the ground. I take a deep breath and assess myself for any injuries. Aside from some cuts and bruises, I am relatively unscathed. But there is no time to rest. More enemies could be lurking in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike. Footsteps thunder towards us. Ranton scrambles to his feet, prepared for another fight, but elves are never this loud. The rest of our patrol arrives, weapons drawn. A fresh wave of exhaustion washes over me as the rush of battle fades. I lower my sword, my arms burning from the exertion. The forest is eerily quiet once again, as if nothing had happened. Why didn't you alert the rest of your patrol? Beloth, the leader of the patrol, shakes his head at the carnage. You both could have been killed fighting them on your own. We didn't hear them approach, Ranton explains, voice shaking. Guilt settles in my stomach like a heavy stone. Ranton barely survived the battle. I should have been more vigilant, more focused. If it weren't for my foolish distraction, those elves could have easily taken me by surprise and ended me too. But then again, perhaps this was a blessing in disguise. My mind was so clouded with thoughts of Kira that I couldn't even muster the strength to feel afraid during the fight. Maybe this is what I needed to snap out of it. A reminder that there are greater dangers out there than unrequited love. I kick one of the elf corpses aside with disgust. These creatures are nothing but trouble and chaos wherever they go. It's no wonder we must constantly guard our borders against their raids. With a sigh, I begin to clean up the mess and gather any useful items from their bodies. This isn't like you. I look up. Camarus, another soldier placed on patrol instead of the front lines as he heals, shakes his head at me. Sorry to disappoint. He frowns. Is this about Warnus? He died with honor, I say. My voice feels hollow. I've said that so many times. His death honors the god of war. His death was glorious. His death was what all orcs aspire towards since birth. A warrior's end. Much better than rotting away of old age. But Warnus died without a mate. Without a child. Without continuing his family name. Without a home to return to at the end of a long battle. Then what's this about? It's not like you to be ambushed. Camarus gestures at the bodies still bleeding onto the grass. Most of them still have their heads. That's not like you either. It's nothing, I snap. Doesn't sound like nothing, Camarus says. Maybe you should speak with the captain again about being put back on the front lines. Get back in the fight. He slaps my back. That's the Javano I know. The Javano he knows. Maybe he's right. I try to summon that orc, the one who relishes in tearing his enemies limb from limb. I try not to wonder if Kira is training tonight by herself. If she's thinking about me too. I hear the distinct whistle of a dark elf. This fight's far from over.
Chapter 9. Kira. 5 nights. The moon rose and set 5 times. The air is cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth. I stand in the centre of the training ring, waiting for him. 2 nights ago, a patrol was ambushed. The fighting has grown closer to camp, and there are whispers that the front lines are falling as ever younger orcs are sent into battle. As the moon saunters across the sky, panic coils in my gut, thoughts of ambush and injury chasing each other in a vicious circle. I tamp them down with an effort of will. He's just on patrol. If he were hurt, he'd be in the medical tents. A flicker of light in the distance catches me off guard. Magic surges. I approach the gate. Orcs are filing out for battle, and I slip out in the chaos even as the guards shout at me to stop. "Stay within the gates," they demand. I ignore them. Another flash of bright purple magic sparks in the distance, and I follow it, my feet carrying me swiftly over the forest floor. The moon is high in the sky now, casting its pale light over everything, but it is not enough to guide me on this unfamiliar path. The surrounding forest area is etched into my mind, but darkness can distort and mislead. A snap of twigs to my right halts my progress. I fade into the shadows, stilling my breath and reaching for the hilt of my dagger. Silence. The silence is deafening. Only the rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl break through. Then the sound of feet moving closer, the brush of fabric against branches, and the faint whisper of voices. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, but there's a sharpness underneath, a hint of metal and leather carried on the wind. I see Javano's silhouette. The battle takes place farther than I thought, but the flashes of the magic travel far. Javano scans the forest, keeping an eye out for the elves who are breaking through the front lines. I stumble on a stone, and his attention snaps toward me. His sword is drawn before I even manage to right myself, the blade hissing past my cheek as he backs me against a tree. The bark bites into my back, and the look in his eyes is more vicious than anything I've ever seen. It melts as he sees me, melts into something softer, hotter. "What the hell are you doing out here?" he whispers. Get back to the gates." Frustration and concern flash in his eyes. "Are you crazy?" "Possibly." "They're using magic," I hiss. "I can help." "You can't." He trails off, shoulders freezing, head tilting. He senses something, and so do I. The smell of weapons and armour, of danger approaching. Then a faint rustle as something brushes against undergrowth, the sounds getting closer. Too light for an orc, too loud for forest creatures. Dark elves. My grip tightens around my dagger hilt as I try to track the sounds. At least 2, possibly more. If I can get behind them. A familiar grunt shatters the night, followed by the ring of steel. "Kira, run!" I can't leave him alone. An elf shoots a bolt of magic towards him, and I block it just as Caspian taught. It swirls around my arm. Months ago it would have knocked me to my feet. Now I let it linger a moment, relishing the shock in the elves' faces, before I fling it back towards the source. The elf stumbles back, eyes wide. "Not used to that, are you?" I lunge forward, throwing a razor-sharp dagger at the nearest elf. Javano's lessons serve me well. I can't grapple with the elves one-on-one, but I can fight from a distance. At the very least, I can distract them enough to allow Javano to attack. The elf staggers back, screaming in agony as my dagger finds its mark. The remaining elf's eyes glint with madness as he charges towards me, swinging his blade with deadly precision. I narrowly dodge his first and second blow, but he shows no signs of slowing down. He continues to advance on me, his eyes locked onto mine with a manic frenzy. "Kira." My name is a growl. Then a blade races towards me, but with a grunt of effort, Javano positions himself between me and our attacker and takes the brunt of the blow. Despite the pain, he retaliates with a swift strike of his own, nearly severing the dark elf's head from his body. The elf's mouth is still open in a silent scream as he falls. Javano sneers at the elf, freeing his blade with ease. Then he falls too. "You're hurt!" I scream in shock and terror. His scarlet blood pools beneath him, seeping into the dead leaves. His powerful frame is now slumped on the forest floor, his vibrant red blood staining the ground and leaves around him. No, no, no. This can't be happening.
There comes a time when you must sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself.
My job was to kidnap her, not fall in love with her.
What if Julius had seen me use magic? He must never know.
What's happening to me? What's happening to my magic?
He would never understand. He'd see me as a liability, a risk too great to keep close.
When everything begins to fall apart, and the only remedy is to sacrifice your heart.
No, I can't let him find out.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, don't do this.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail.
And that time is now.
Savannah, run! Chapter 10. Javano. With each passing moment, my breath grows heavier. I think I really did it this time. When I was younger, I truly thought it was impossible. Not like I was immortal, but I just couldn't die. Through so many battles and close calls. But now, for the second time in my life, I'm staring death down. Kira looks down at me, desperately pressing a cloth against my wound. "You're okay," she says, voice shaking. I wish I'd kissed her at least once. My lungs burn as I struggle to inhale, the sharp pain in my side threatening to drag me into unconsciousness. The air is thick with the overwhelming stench of blood and sweat, a nauseating combination that makes me want to retch. Kira's hands are saturated with my blood. I gasp for breath, the searing pain in my side threatening to pull me under. The smell of blood and sweat fills the air, a sickly sweet scent that makes my stomach churn. Kira hovers at my side as stubborn as ever, her blood-stained hand stroking my cheek. "Hold on," she demands. "The rest of the clan should be here soon. They must have heard the fighting." I cling to the sound of her voice, a lifeline in the haze of pain. Them, or elves. Despite the pain, I keep scanning the horizon. "Sorry for missing our trainings," I manage to croak, my words barely audible through the agony. "We've been busy out here." Her eyes brim with tears as she looks down at me, guilt and remorse plain to see on her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispers, her voice laced with self-awareness and regret. "So selfish. I just wanted to learn, to be with you." I shake my head, my body feeling weak and heavy. My voice rasps with effort as I try to speak. "You stopped their magic," I manage to say, wanting to reassure her despite the pain and exhaustion coursing through me. "And you fought well." Kira presses her lips together tightly. "I distracted you." I almost laugh at that. Even when she wasn't present, the thought of her distracted me. She's been haunting me since that night we almost kissed. Hell, before that, since I pulled her out of a burning wagon. It was those damn elves. They were the ones who attacked us. I continue, anger simmering beneath my words. "You showed nothing but courage and bravery in the face of danger." As my blurry vision slowly clears, I am met with the sight of a single tear rolling down her cheek, shimmering in the faint light. My thumb instinctively follows its path and gently wipes it away, feeling the wetness against my skin. Our faces draw closer, the dim light casting a halo around her features and highlighting her stunning appearance. In her eyes, I see a mix of determination and desire, like a flame that refuses to be put out. I've been fighting it, fighting my feelings for you, I confess with a shaky voice, my rough hand cupping her delicate cheek. Our lips meet in a kiss that is both tender and fierce. The warmth of her breath against my skin sends shivers down my spine. Our mouths move together in perfect harmony, the pressure of our lips melding together like two puzzle pieces, fitting perfectly into place. I taste the salt of her tears mingling with the delicious flavors of cinnamon and honey that linger on her skin, creating a tantalizing blend that awakens all of my senses. "Don't stop on my account," Camera says with a light laugh. Kira pulls back. Camera stands with 5 other orcs, including Ranton and a healer, Alicia. Kira blushes, suddenly very shy under the healer's teasing gaze. I witness the heat in Kira's cheeks as she meets Alicia's raised brow. Camarus's face turns serious as he looks over the elves, and then at the battle raging in the horizon. "You need to get back to camp. Everyone else, back on patrol. We'll continue this later," I manage, my voice soft and gravelly. Alicia laughs again. "Of course you will. An injury like this won't stop an orc from claiming his woman. Not for long, at least." I croak a laugh, but it hurts. "Easy there, big guy," she says. "What did you do this time?" She looks down at the rag, soaked in blood, and shakes her head. "I'm beginning to think you enjoy being stabbed. At least it's a superficial wound this time." I wince as she takes over from Kira. Her movements are fluid and calculated in their efficiency. Long ago, she'd use magic to heal my wounds. Now she chants our traditional prayers as she uses techniques learned from humans to patch me up instead. She sews my flesh closed, and I bite back a shout of pain. With a firm hand, the field medic commands me to open my mouth, and I oblige, feeling the sharp sting of liquid medicine soothe my throbbing pain. The flavor is sweet and earthy, like a potent root that numbs my senses and brings a welcome sense of relief. As my vision blurs, and I drift into a cloud of haze, the root's pleasant flavor works to numb my pain. My vision is blurred, but I can make out the 3 figures now surrounding me. And as I lay here in a haze, I have a fleeting moment to survey the chaos around me. Soldiers march forward, while 2 others load me onto a pallet and begin to carry me forward towards our camp. "I'm here," Kira says beside me. "I'm not leaving."
Chapter 11. Kira. My hands tremble as I wrap them around the mug of tea, still steaming, compliments of Alicia. Javano's blood stains my cloak. Only a few hours ago I pressed wads of linen into the gash across his ribs, fighting the bile rising in my throat at the sight of torn flesh and splintered bone. Javano brushed it off like it was nothing. His nonchalance sparks a fresh spike of anger through me. Does he not realise how devastated I would be if something happened to him? I take a small sip of the tea, wincing as it burns my tongue. The sharp sensation helps bring me back to reality. Javano walks out of the medical examination tent, and I quickly look away from the bandages covering his torso. "The captain wants me to rest," he informs me, "but I'll be back on duty soon." He needs more time to recover. His body is still fragile, and I know he needs more time to heal. Considering the battle raging on the front lines, he might not have that option. "Let me stay with you, to help." The words slip out before I can overthink them. Heat blooms across my cheeks. This is too bold, presumptuous. What must he think of me? A flicker of annoyance passes over his features, but it is not directed at me. It's more a frustration with the concept of being cared for by someone else. However, he can't help but let out a genuine smile that causes his eyes to crinkle at the corners. "I suppose I have little say in the matter, do I?" he says with a hint of resignation in his voice. The lines on his face tell a story of past struggles and hardships, but in this moment, his smile lights up the room like a beacon of hope. "Not really," I say, regaining some of my cool. Not much of a feat, considering how close the big oaf came to dying on me. The close call with death still lingers in the air as I reach out to take one of his large, rough hands in mine. His words come out in short grunts, his teeth clenched in determination. "It's not as serious as it seemed," he manages to say through the pain. "Just a scratch. I'll be good as new by morning." But his face is pallid, and despite his attempts to hide it, I can see the exhaustion in every line of his face. A crimson stain spans across his chest, evidence of the blood he's lost. Even though the captain has ordered him to take at least 2 days of rest, Javano didn't protest or argue like he normally would have. That tells me everything. His injury is worse than he wants to admit. We make the short walk to his tent in silence. The moon is high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the campsite. Javano's steps are slow and unsteady, and I worry that he might collapse before we reach his tent. I gently place a hand on his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin through the fabric of his shirt. "Are you sure you're okay to walk?" I ask with concern in my voice, trying to hide my worry. He forces a smile and nods, but I can see the pain in his expression. "I'll be fine," he assures me, though his words are laced with strain and discomfort. His shoulders hunch slightly as he tries to steady himself, and I can't help but feel an overwhelming urge to protect him from any further pain. We finally arrive at his tent, and with a gentle hand I help him inside. His tent is small but inviting, with a fur-lined pallet for a bed beckoning to him. I guide him over to sit on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb his injured chest. The room is filled with the smell of dried herbs and healing oils as I gather bandages and ointment from a desk he's built in the corner. How often has he tended his wounds alone? "Thank you," Javano says, as I begin to clean and dress his wound once more before he sleeps. "It's no problem," I reply, trying not to let my worry show. "You've saved my life before." He chuckles weakly at this, but then winces as I press down. "Sorry," I apologize quickly, easing up on the pressure. He gestures grandly to the bed, a regal flick of his wrist. "You can have it," he offers kindly. "I'll take the floor." My heart pounds as I shake my head in protest. "We can share," I insist. Javano studies me intently for a long moment before finally nodding in agreement. We lie down next to each other. At first we're inches apart, but the bed is too narrow to keep from brushing against each other as we settle down for the night. I can feel my pulse thrum throughout my entire body. I force my breath to stay even, but I can't stop thinking of our kiss, of how I almost lost him. He's injured. He needs rest. As the darkness envelops us, Javano's breaths become ragged and desperate. I can feel his intense gaze on me, his desire palpable in the air. My own longing matches his as I slowly drape my body over his, careful of his injury, as I lower my head to his muscled chest and listen to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Kira," he groans, his voice thick with need. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" The heat between our bodies radiates, sending shivers down my spine as I let myself get lost in the moment with him. The air is heavy with anticipation, and it feels like time has stopped just for us. I meet his gaze steadily and nod, a smirk playing on my lips. He growls low in his throat. In one quick motion he rolls on top of me, pinning me beneath him. I gasp, equal parts thrilled and frightened by his sudden intensity. "You're injured?" "I've fought in worse condition," he murmurs. Javano's eyes blaze with unrestrained need. "Tell me to stop, Kira. Tell me now if you don't want this." My heart pounds erratically. I know I'm playing with fire, but I can't bring myself to put an end to this delicious torture. "Don't stop," I whisper, looking up at him defiantly. With hunger, he claims my mouth in a searing kiss that leaves me breathless and weak. I cling to him, desire coursing through my veins. Javano's lips press against mine with such ferocity that it drives me wilder than I've ever felt before. Our bodies meld together like two flames dancing dangerously close, hungry for more. This is only the beginning for us. I know that now. He breaks the kiss, panting. His eyes search my face anxiously. Are you hurt? Did I go too far? You're the one who's hurt. I shake my head, threading my fingers through his ebony mohawk. Don't stop, I whisper again. A slow, wicked grin spreads across his face. He kisses me again, softly this time, teasing me with gentle nips and caresses of his tongue. His piercings brush against my skin, and I gently run my fingers across the rings along his ear. He pulls back. I whimper in protest, wanting more, but Javano continues his sweet torment. His hands slide under my tunic, gliding up my sides. I gasp as his calloused fingers brush the sides of my chest. He chuckles darkly, trailing kisses down my neck. So responsive, he murmurs. I'm going to enjoy discovering all the ways to make you moan. Heat pools low in my belly at his words. Javano. He pulls back slightly, eyes dancing with mirth and desire. Tell me what you want, Kira. I bite my lip, suddenly shy. Javano brushes his thumb over my lower lip, waiting patiently for my answer. I take a deep breath and whisper, You. I want you. Javano's eyes darken with lust. As you wish, he rasps. He claims my mouth again as his hands continue their exploration of my body. I give myself over to the sensations, losing myself in the velvet darkness of his eyes. I've dreamed of this for so many nights. Tonight it's not a dream.
Chapter 12. Javano. Let me, Kira murmurs, urging me to lay down on my back. My injury burns, but it's nothing compared to the pleasure of her touch. Still, I asked her what she wanted. If it's this, I'll give it to her gladly. I'll give her anything. Well, it looks like we've reached a part of the story that's just too hot for YouTube. But don't worry, you can unlock the uncut, steamy details over at worldsofprotheka.com. Use code YouTube30 for a special discount on the thrilling conclusion. Now, back to the adventure. Your bandage, she finally murmurs. I glance down at it. The stitches have held, which is a minor miracle, but the bandage itself has come a bit loose. Kira tries to fix it, but I keep kissing her instead. Later. Now, she demands, pulling back to wash up and gather medical supplies. I can't believe we did that when you're hurt. Are you okay? I don't tell her that even with the wound, I'm better than I've been in years. I let her patch me back up and then pull her in for another kiss. In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive. Chapter 13. Kira. Kira. Javano pauses with uncertainty, his words stilted. Would you like to spend the day with me? His large frame subtly shifts where he stands. I can see his nervous weight flowing from foot to foot as he watches me with anticipation. We spent the night together, and normally I'd be preparing for training with Caspian and Avalon, but training's been suspended for the day as Hyzen consults with the Dark Elf. About what? I'm not sure I want to know, but I can guess. With the fighting drawing closer, the need to close the portal to Protheka grows even more necessary. Our forces drove back the elves, and the patrols have tripled, but everyone seems to be walking on eggshells, waiting for the fragile peace in camp to break. I'll be leaving soon. My stomach squeezes in on itself. I still want to go. At least I don't want Avalon to go, and I'd like for her to have a world to live in, which amounts to the same thing. But before, I was just leaving behind a sister. Now, I'm leaving behind warm arms, holding me close in the morning and bringing me unbelievable pleasure at night. A man who taught me how to fight and how to love in equal measure. At first, I thought that it was just mutual attraction, but I can't deny the comfort I feel around him. How safe I feel, even when we're attacked by elves. Maybe I can just pretend this is real, just for a day. I'd love to. He leads me to the river, his large hand dwarfing mine. I can hear the trickling, streaming river getting louder as we approach the embankment. Nothing could have prepared me for what he had planned. The sun shines warmly, casting a golden glow upon the scene. The occasional cloud cover provides us with respite from its rays, creating a dance of light and shadow that embraces us. My hand comes to my chest as my heart picks up speed. My breath catches in my throat as I take in the sight before me. A blanket, spread out on a plush grass patch near the embankment, beckons invitingly. I never expected he'd prepare something so romantic. It didn't seem to be in his bones, but here he stands, a gentle giant with anticipation emanating from his every pore. Its vibrant colours and intricate patterns speak to the care and thoughtfulness Javano has put into this moment. Upon it lies an extravagant feast, an ensemble of culinary delights that cater to both human and orcish tastes. When did you do this? He looks almost embarrassed. While you checked in with Caspian? Javano gestures for me to sit, his eyes filled with a mixture of nervousness and eagerness. He nervously begins to adjust the setup he's put so much thought into. I lower myself onto the blanket, feeling its softness beneath me. I didn't know you had such a penchant for picnic planning, I say to him with a playful smile. He returns my smile with a low chuckle. It's never been something I wanted to do before. Everything needed to be perfect. For you. He lowers his eyes, clearly not used to making romantic gestures. I can't help but feel my heart melt at his words. Javano, the fierce warrior, putting so much effort into creating a perfect moment for us. It's a side of him I haven't seen before, and it makes me adore him even more. A sense of excitement fills the air. There are plates of tender grilled meat, marinated in a secret blend of spices that only orcs know. The aroma is rich, smoky, and tantalizing. The flavors explode in my mouth, the spices dancing on my taste buds like fiery sparks. It's intense and bold, much different from the delicate flavors I'm accustomed to as a human. Javano, on the other hand, hesitates before picking up a pastry filled with sweet cream and berries. His expression turns sour as he takes a bite, his eyebrows furrowing in distaste. Unable to contain myself, I burst into laughter, covering my mouth with both hands to stifle the sound. His eyes widen in surprise at my reaction. "What's so funny?" he asks, his voice laced with confusion. "You're not exactly a fan of human pastries. Such a complete lack of culinary adventure," I tisk between bouts of laughter. Javano's face breaks into a sheepish grin, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Well, I suppose my taste buds are more attuned to the bold flavours of Orcish delicacies," he admits, with a soft shrug. I lean closer, my laughter subsiding as I study his face. There is a depth in his eyes that tells me there is more to this warrior than meets the eye. "Tell me, Javano," I begin, my curiosity piqued. "What was your life like before the war?" A flicker of sadness crosses Javano's features before he takes a deep breath and begins to speak. "I was an orphan," he says, his voice tinged with raw emotion. "Growing up on my own, I had to learn to fend for myself at a young age. It was tough, but it made me who I am today, independent and resilient." I reach out and gently place my hand on Javano's, a gesture of empathy and understanding. "That must have been incredibly difficult," I murmur, my voice filled with genuine compassion. He nods. his gaze returning to mine. Yes, it was a harsh upbringing, but it shaped me into the warrior I am today, he says, his voice steady. I'm struck by the parallel between Javano's upbringing and my own. Though our worlds are vastly different, we both understand the importance of family, whether it be through blood or chosen bonds. Speaking of families, Javano says, breaking the silence that has settled between us, what was your childhood like? Tell me about your family and your culture. I take a moment to gather my thoughts before sharing my own story. I'm just part of the survivor group. The only person I have is my sister Avalon, I say solemnly. I don't remember much of my family. They were killed when we were young, and then we were enslaved by dark elves. I rub my fingertips together. We were young, so they had us work as seamstresses. We could make smaller stitches than the adults. We changed hands many times, and then you found us. There's not much else to tell. As I speak, I can see the genuine curiosity in Javano's red-tinged eyes, but he seems to understand without being told that I don't want to talk about our time with the elves. In turn, he shares stories of orcish traditions and rituals. There is a contest among my people, one of skill and precision. Javano says to me with an air of superiority and an impish smirk. My interest is instantly piqued. What kind of contest? Javano continues grinning mischievously. A stone-skipping contest, he replies. I bet I could take you on, I challenge. I can feel the smile for Javano as my eyes crinkle with excitement. We stand at the water's edge, peering into its rippling surface. The moment feels alive with the magical feeling growing between us. It requires focus, balance, and just the right touch. Javano begins. He picks up a stone, closing his hand around it, and tests the weight in his hand before throwing it. It barely skims the surface before landing with an anticlimactic plop. We both watch as the stone disappears into the water. A smirk itches at the corners of my mouth as I stifle my laughter. I grab a stone of my own and throw it. It skips twice, leaving growing ripples in its wake. Javano raises his eyebrow, impressed by my human skill at his orc game. He chuckles at my triumphant punch into the air. Hey, I say, I bet you can't catch a fish with your bare hands. Javano raises an eyebrow, his eyes sparkling with a mix of intrigue and amusement. You think I can't catch a fish with my bare hands? He asks, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. I nod, unable to contain my excitement. I dare you to try, I respond, my voice filled with playful challenge. Without hesitation, Javano wades into the water, his footsteps causing fish to scatter in all directions. The sun glistens off the surface of the water, creating a shimmering path that leads to Javano's outstretched hands. With lightning-fast reflexes, Javano plunges his hands into the water, attempting to snatch a fish from its hiding place. But as fate would have it, the slippery creature eludes his grasp, darting away with a flick of its tail. I burst into laughter, unable to contain my amusement at Javano's failed attempt. He scowls slightly, but he refuses to give up. Competitiveness glimmers in his eyes as he takes another step forward, fully immersing himself in the cool water. Javano dives into the water, plunging his hands into the depths of the river. The water splashes around him as he disappears beneath its surface. My heart skips a beat in anticipation as I watch bubbles rise to the surface. Seconds feel like an eternity before Javano resurfaces, his wild hair dripping water and a triumphant grin etched upon his face. In his hands wriggles a gleaming silver fish, its scales shimmering under the sunlight. Your wound, he shrugs. Orcs heal fast and it's covered. I'll be fine. After an exciting round of laughter and cheering, we return to the blanket where we lay in the warmth of the sun. You did well in the fight last night. I can tell you are gaining strength. He breaks the silence with unexpected praise. Thank you, Javano, I reply, my voice softening with gratitude. I couldn't have come this far without you as a mentor. The way he looks at me, a mix of admiration and affection, fills me with warmth from the inside out. I see you have a soft side, I tease. A playful glint dances in Javano's eyes as he chuckles. Only for special humans, he teases back. He lunges toward me, his fingers reaching out to tickle my sides. Laughter erupts from my lips as I squirm helplessly under his touch. His laughter mingles with mine, sending nearby birds flying into the sky. Our laughter fades into contented sighs as Javano pulls me closer to him. I find myself wishing this time with him would never end.
Chapter 14. Javano. Come on, Kira, keep pushing. I bark my guiding commands at her. I can physically see the trembles of exhaustion in her lithe limbs. The picnic was a nice break, but Hyzen has been making moves. Caspian has spent the entire day with him, and rumors build that we'll be making a major move against the Dark Elves soon. The mounting pressure of the challenges before us is beginning to close in. I know Kira will go through that portal no matter what. I need her strong. I need her to survive. I'm pushing, Kira grunts, her breaths coming out as winded pants. Despite her exhaustion, Kira's movements are sharper than before. I keep pushing her, trying to will her the endurance to overcome the tiredness she's beginning to show. We've fallen into a strict training routine over the last few days. With each day that passes, I find myself putting more pressure on Kira. That's right. Don't forget your form. I growl through gnashed teeth. Kira lets out a frustrated sigh in response. The dim light of dawn is upon us, casting its beginning glows of morning onto Kira as she flawlessly performs a defensive move I taught her as if it were second nature. She's done it painstakingly over and over, until I've deemed her proficient enough to move on. I give her a curt nod, letting her know we can take a break. We wrap up our training, sitting at the base of a large tree to catch our breath. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. Kira's chest rises and falls rapidly, her muscles quivering with exertion. I watch her intently, admiring the determination etched across her sweat-glistened face. The weight of my expectations hangs heavy in the silence between us. You're doing well, I say, my voice softer now, a hint of warmth seeping through my previous gruffness. Kira glances up at me, her eyes brimming with weariness, yet fueled by a flicker of hope. Am I really? It feels like I'm barely keeping up. The vulnerability in her words tugs at my heart, the realization dawning upon me that perhaps I've been pushing her too hard. But our journey demands nothing short of perfection from each of us. The trials we face are not for the faint-hearted. They require strength and resilience beyond measure. You're stronger than you think, I assure her, reaching out to gently squeeze her shoulder. This path we're on, it's not easy. But you have fire within you, Kira. I see it every time you rise from the ashes of your fatigue and continue to fight. Her eyes soften, a glimmer of gratitude replacing the doubt that had clouded them moments before. I don't want to disappoint you, she admits, her voice laced with uncertainty. To disappoint everyone. Caspian has been putting an immense amount of pressure on us lately. I'm beginning to fear I won't be able to keep up with his demands. My eyes are drawn to her hand in her lap, absently fidgeting with her training gear. The inner turmoil she's experiencing must be eating away at her. Avalon has been erratic lately, she says to me. The concern shrouds her voice. She's fighting with Caspian all the time, fighting with me. I lean in closer, my brows furrowing as I listen to Kira's worries. The mention of Avalon's erratic behavior and frequent confrontations with Caspian sets off alarm bells in my mind. The bond between the two of them has always been strong, but lately it seems strained, like a thread about to snap. Kira fixes her gaze to the ground. It's like she's fighting some internal battle. She won't talk about it, but I can see the torment in her eyes. And when she clashes with Caspian, it's like they're mirrors reflecting each other's anger. A heavy sigh escapes me as I consider the implications. Caspian has always been a formidable presence, his methods unorthodox yet effective. Is it possible that Caspian is pushing Avalon too hard? I ponder out loud. Or perhaps there's something deeper at play here. Kira leans back against the tree trunk, her expression troubled. I can't say for certain, but whatever is happening, it feels dangerous. Our unity is vital for what lies ahead. I understand Kira's concern all too well. We cannot afford to have any fractures between us. Kira throws a frustrated punch in the air, her pent-up emotions exploding with each strike. The last argument between Avalon and Caspian still echoes in my mind, replaying like a broken record. She groans, covering her face with her hands. As the memory of that fateful argument resurfaces in Kira's mind, I can see her body tremble with suppressed emotion. She takes a deep breath, attempting to steady herself before continuing. Caspian accused Avalon of being weak, of not having what it takes to face the challenges that lie ahead, she whispers, her voice choked with sadness. And Avalon, fueled by anger and hurt pride, retaliated with biting words of her own. Their words were like poison. They really wanted to hurt each other. I ought to be glad, because it means Caspian's more likely to choose me, but... She shakes her head. It all just feels wrong. I reach out and gently squeeze Kira's hand, offering her silent reassurance. I don't want to think about her going on a mission to another world. I fear for Kira's safety should she face the dark elves alone. My mind is plagued, envisioning the worst outcomes of her solitary journey. But only she or Avalon can go, and I know that losing her sister will destroy her even more than losing her own life. I can't help the fearful pressure I begin to put on her in our sessions. I can no longer sleep peacefully, haunted by the nightmares that plague my restless nights. In those dreams I see Kira standing alone amidst a sea of menacing dark elves. Their malevolent gazes pierce through her armor, seeking to exploit every weakness within her. She fights valiantly, but each strike she lands is met with an equal ferocity from her adversaries. I'm rendered helpless, unable to save her life. My fears have planted a seed of doubt of her capabilities. The same doubt I told her to fight as viciously as any enemy on the battlefield. I fear that it will hinder her abilities as both a warrior and my lover. My heart aches at the thought of what's to come. I push Kira to the limits in our training. My frustration grows with the threat of her demise. She collapses, dirt-streaked and weary at the end of a grueling session. Her body trembles and tears leave dirty paths down her cheeks. "Stand!" I bark the order at her. My intensity bears no room for such weakness. This is why I must push her. My need to know that she can survive the dark elves on her own surpasses the comfortable support I may have once offered her. Kira struggles to her feet, her legs trembling beneath the weight of exhaustion. Pain stretches itself across her face, mirroring the strain within our relationship. My criticisms have become sharper. My patience has worn thin. I barely recognize the person I've become, consumed by a desperate need to protect her at any cost. "Again," I demand, my voice filled with a harshness that cuts through the air like a razor. There is no room for compassion in this relentless pursuit for strength. Kira's eyes meet mine. She takes a deep breath, gathering what little strength she has left, and launches herself into another round of strikes. Each punch lands with precision, a testament to her unwavering commitment. But as I watch her push herself beyond her limits, doubt begins to creep into my mind. Am I pushing her too hard? Have my fears clouded my judgment? I see the way her body trembles, how fatigue weighs heavily upon her. Yet, I cannot afford to let up. The path ahead is treacherous, and weakness will be mercilessly exploited by our enemies. With every session, our connection frays further. The trust we once shared is now overshadowed by my relentless drive to ensure her survival, but in doing so, I've inadvertently pushed her away. There is an invisible wall between us, one that grows taller with each harsh word and demanding command. I can sense Kira's frustration brewing beneath the surface. She longs for the support she once had, the reassurance that together we can conquer any obstacle. But instead, she faces an unyielding barrage of criticism. I can't do it anymore, she whispers, her voice barely audible over the sound of our heavy breaths. She stares at me, with tears in her brown eyes. They well, filling to the brim. One rolls over and down her cheeks as she holds my gaze with the hurt I've bestowed upon her.
Chapter 15. Kira. What are you doing, Kira? You're failing. Javano's harsh words bite at my resolve. I'm standing here in front of him, my heart thundering in my chest as the pain tethers me to its clutches. Do you even hear yourself right now? I can hear the incredulous tone of my voice as the tail ends pitch upwards as my voice wavers. The tears in my eyes spill over, running paths down the dirt and sweat stuck to my cheeks. I hear myself trying to prepare you for something you're not at all ready to face. I'm trying to keep you alive. Why can't you see that? Javanos' fists clench at his sides as he struggles with something beneath the surface. I can't pinpoint it, but it appears to have consumed him. Your words are offensive and belittling. Is this what it means to you to be a mentor? To break down your students so far that the lesson no longer bears any semblance of learning? I can feel the warmth of anger flushing in my cheeks as I break the spell he once had me under. Kira, No, Javano, please just stop. He stiffens at my command, the warrior in him, at war with the companion he's become for me. My words come in a rush in an attempt to bite back tears that haven't stopped forming. My voice hitches in my throat as I stare at the troubled orc before me. Javano's eyes flicker with a mix of anger and pain, his rugged features marred with worry lines that deepen in the dim light. He takes a step forward, his large hands trembling as he reaches out to me, but hesitates and pulls back, as if afraid to touch me lest he shatter the fragile shell I've become. You don't understand, he says, his voice choked with emotion. Out there, on the battlefield, it's a different world, a merciless dance between life and death. I've seen too many fearless warriors fall, their blood staining the earth beneath their feet. I can't bear the thought of losing you. His words falter as he attempts to explain his fears of me falling in battle never to return to his arms. I see the raw vulnerability in his eyes, the love and desperation intertwined like a tapestry woven from moonlight and shadows. It breaks my heart to witness this side of him, a side that he seldom reveals, hidden beneath layers of stoicism and duty. They call him the Mutilator, a force to be reckoned with at war. But here, I need my lover, my companion. His fears leave him blinded and warped to who is standing in front of him. He has trained me in his image and still doesn't trust my skills. Then he looks at me, and I see the absolute terror in his eyes. It's not that he doesn't trust me or believe me capable. He cares for me. As I stand here before him, the realization of reality wraps its coils around me. I may have to choose between Javano and my call to duty. That call burns brightly within me. The Dawnstones must be destroyed, and the portal must be closed. This task persistently tugs at my soul. I was made for the journey whether Javano realizes it or not. The weight of our argument hangs heavy in the air, suffocating the once vibrant bond between us. The tension is palpable, like an unseen predator lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on our weakened connection. I can feel it clawing at my heart, digging deeper with each passing moment. Javano's eyes search mine, pleading for understanding, consumed by the fear of losing me to a fate he cannot bear to imagine. And yet, I cannot ignore the call that resonates within me, beckoning me towards a destiny I am meant to fulfill. No one else can do this, and I refuse to sacrifice my only sister. I gaze into Javano's eyes, searching for a glimmer of understanding, a flicker of compromise. But all I find is a storm raging within him, an inner turmoil that threatens to consume us both. He struggles to keep his emotions in check, his fists clenched at his sides as if holding back an avalanche of emotions. I never wanted to break you down, Javano whispers, his voice barely audible above the echoing silence. But this path you've chosen, it haunts me. The battles ahead are treacherous, Kira. Unforgiving. I fear for your safety, your life. His voice cracks, revealing the depths of his anguish. I reach out tentatively, my hand hovering in the space between us. Javano, I say softly, my voice filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. I understand. I didn't choose this. But this, I was made for this. Your sister? No. I cut him off sharply, turning away. My body is racked with tremors for the intensity of this ridge that has formed between us. He let his own emotions blind him to the destructive sublimation of his own fears. I was collateral damage in no time. The idea forms before I have time to ponder it, but I know it's the right thing to do. I think we need to spend some time apart for a while. I whisper softly into the still, cold air. My breath fogs before me as I speak. Javano's eyes widen, a mix of shock and pain in their depths. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words escape his trembling lips. It feels as though the very air has turned stagnant, as if time itself has halted to witness this heartbreaking moment. With each step I take backward, the chasm between us widens, my heart sinking deeper into the abyss. The moonlight casts an ethereal glow upon Javano's face, illuminating the turmoil upon his features. He seems lost, adrift in a sea of emotions that threaten to drown him. The silence between us is filled with unspoken words that hang heavy like lead weights. I can sense Javano's longing for me to stay, to abandon my duty and choose him above all else. But the core within me is relentless, a force that cannot be ignored or subdued. I don't want to leave you, I say softly, my voice barely audible as it floats through the night air. But this burden I carry, it is mine alone to bear. It isn't fair to wrap you up in this as well. Javano's gaze pierces through me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and resignation. His fists unclench at his sides, and he takes a hesitant step forward, closing the space between us. Kira, he murmurs. His eyes falter, trying to absorb the image of me before him. I slowly shake my head in response, the pain threatening to tear me apart from the depths of my core. It pains me to walk away, but I know this is something that I have to do. The training ground, once a place of solace and shared dreams, now stands as a witness to our crumbling connection. Javano reaches out, his hand trembling in the air, desperate to bridge the divide that has consumed us. There is a heaviness in the silence that surrounds us, as if even the wind holds its breath, anticipating my final decision. With a heavy heart, I turn away from Javano, unable to meet his gaze. A pang of guilt gnaws at my conscience, but deep down, I know that this is the only path forward for both of us. The weight of destiny hangs heavy upon my shoulders, guiding me towards a future that I cannot ignore. Javano's voice trembles as he finally finds the words he so desperately wants to say. Kira, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. Please, don't go. My heart aches at the sound of his plea, my own desires warring with my sense of duty. But I know what needs to be done. I turn just enough to let him see my back, a silent goodbye that speaks volumes. The tears begin to fall as I walk away from the training grounds, leaving Javano standing there alone in the cold.
Chapter 16. Javano. The sun is rising over the training grounds. My body feels frozen in place as I replay the sight of Kira walking away. The way the sun shone on her sandy brown hair, imparting the pink and yellow tones of its imminent rise, is burned behind my eyes. What have I done? I grumble to myself. My heart is breaking. I only wanted to protect her, to be certain that she was strong enough. I failed her miserably, letting fear control my words. Stupid! I yell, filling the silence around me with my fury. Determined to release the pent-up frustration that festers within me, I make my way towards the sparring area where the other orcs train. The sounds of clashing swords and grunts of exertion fill the air, creating a symphony of violence that resonates deep within my soul. As I step onto the practice grounds, adrenaline courses through my veins like molten fire. The sight of others engaged in aggressive hand-to-hand combat ignites a flame of battle lust within me. Every strike they deliver is like a futile attempt to break free from their own chains of frustration. Without hesitation, I approach one of the burliest orcs on the field, Sog. His bulging muscles ripple with power. He sees me staring him down, my rage an ineffective shield to the way my heart is tearing in two. "What are you looking at, Javano?" His words drip with malice at the offensive way I've narrowed my eyes and balled my fists in a silent challenge. "I'm looking for a fight, Sog," I growl, my voice laced with a mixture of anger and desperation. "I need to take my frustrations out on someone, and you seem like the perfect punching bag." Sog smirks, his lips curling up in a sadistic grin. "Careful what you wish for, Javano," he taunts. "I've been waiting for the chance to wipe that arrogant smirk off your face." Without another word, we both step into the center of the training grounds, the sun casting long shadows over the arena. The other orcs pause their sparring matches to watch as the tension between us escalates. As the fight begins, we circle each other like two predators locked in a deadly dance. Sog swings his massive fist towards me with thunderous force, but I manage to dodge just in time, feeling the wind from his blow brush against my cheek. In return, I retaliate with a swift kick to his abdomen, causing him to stagger backward. The sound of our grunts and the clashing of our bodies reverberate across the training grounds. We exchange blow after blow, each strike filled with raw power and unbridled fury. The ground trembles beneath us as we unleash our pent-up animosity upon each other. Blood trickles from cuts and bruises, marring our skin like battle scars. The pain only fuels us further, pushing us beyond our limits. We become lost in the chaos of our fight, consumed by an unyielding desire to destroy and draw blood. Our fight dwindles as exhausted. There is not much more damage we can do. We separate, bruised and bloodied without a word. Sog stalks off the training grounds to nurse his wounds. The days pass with no contact from Kira. I sit in the mess hall alone, barely touching my food. I search for her, but she evades me at every turn. My heart sinks when I don't see her bright eyes and radiant smile among the crowds of orcs. The memories of our last encounter hang over me, a dark cloud blocking out any light or joy. I pick at the meat and hardened bread on my plate, my appetite non-existent. The loud chatter and raucous laughter around me fade into the background. All I can think about is Kira and the shattered bond that once stood strong between us, now irreparable beyond repair. Broken and defeated, I retreat to my barracks. I pace the room wallowing in my defeat. My bruises from my fight with Sog are solid reminders of the void I try to fill. Suddenly my door swings open. Captain Zelias enters my barracks, his expression stern and disapproving. "Do you think injuring fighting men is the best course of action when we are in the middle of an all-out war?" "Maybe they should train harder," I snap. "Sir." "And you won't be training with them until you screw your head on straight. Until I give the order, you're banned from the training grounds. You're banned from patrol, and you're sure as hell banned from the front." My fists clench at my sides, muscles tensing as anger rises within me. "This isn't your decision to make," I snap, meeting Zelias's gaze defiantly. The captain shakes his head, unfazed by my outburst. "You've become reckless and undisciplined. I won't have you jeopardizing missions or endangering other soldiers with your temper." I step closer, eyes burning with fury. "You don't understand! This is the only way I can keep the memories at bay. The fighting, the blood, the pain. It's the only thing that makes me feel alive." "I don't understand?" Zelias crosses his arms over his chest and looks at me in disgust. "I know you've been sniffing around that human girl." I growl. "Enough," he orders. "You listen to me. I know you've been with her, and we all know what she needs to do. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why you're on edge. Have you ever considered talking to someone about that? Or did you just plan on making it everyone else's problem? Normally I'd talk to Warnus, but he's gone. I'm fine, sir, I say, forcing myself to calm my voice. I just want to fight. Zelias holds up a hand. That's enough, soldier. I know you've been through hell, but letting it consume you won't help anything. His expression softens slightly. Take some time away from active duty. Get your head straight. I need my best men ready when called upon. He blows out a breath. That might come sooner than later. My anger wavers at his words. As much as I want to resist, I know there is truth in what he says. The memories of battle haunt me both waking and sleeping, driving me to the brink. Fine, I mutter. I'll do as you order, sir. Zelias nods. Good. Report to the infirmary and have those wounds looked at. When you've had time to calm down, we'll discuss getting you back to your duties. He turns and leaves my room as swiftly as he entered. I lay back on my cot, determined to shut out the disappointments of this situation with Kira. I fall asleep remembering the soft touch of her skin and the laughter we once shared. My dreams are haunted by the images of Kira's tear-streaked face. I toss and turn on my bed, images of our intimacy mixing with the harsh words of our training that ruined us. In my restless sleep, I see her, standing before me, eyes brimming with hurt and betrayal. Her lips form soundless words, asking why I pushed her away, why I turned my back on the love we shared. I reach for her, but she fades like smoke through my grasping fingers. Her face dissolves into memories of our time together, secret smiles across the training yard, stolen moments in shadowed alcoves, the brush of fingers that set our hearts racing. I cherished every shared heartbeat, every whispered endearment, the passion that burned between us brighter than dragon fire. I awaken quickly. This torture is too much to bear. It is the dark of night, but it is still no match for the darkness of my thoughts and the way they cling to me like a blackened weight of guilt and despair. The next day I see Kira across the encampment. Her lithe figure moves with beautiful purpose. I steel myself and stride confidently toward her, eager to end this once and for all. As I draw nearer, the familiar cadence of her walk tugs at my heart. The sunlight catches in her light brown hair, giving her shining highlights. Her skin glows warm and smooth, inviting my touch despite everything that has transpired between us. I open my mouth to call out to her, but the words stick in my throat. She must sense my approach because she slips away into the crowd, her avoidance a clear message I am not ready to accept. I quicken my pace, weaving through the throngs of soldiers, but she is always a step ahead, evading me with graceful ease. I stand amidst the bustling camp, the din of activity swirling around me, yet I am frozen in place. The realization that I may have lost Kira for good sinks into my bones with a chilling finality. How could I have been so stupid, so blinded by misplaced duty and false obligations that I pushed away the one person who truly mattered? All around me, soldiers go about their tasks, sharpening blades, tending fires, preparing rations. The clang of steel and thump of axes on wood is deafening, yet I barely hear it over the pounding of my heart. Plumes of smoke twist and coil into the sky from countless cook fires as the rich, savory smell of stew permeates the air. It does nothing to whet my appetite or warm my chilled spirit. A hollow ache settles in my chest as I recall the brush of Kira's fingers against mine as we stole secret moments together, the musical sound of her laugh, the softness of her lips on mine. The memories are vivid yet intangible, like grasping at tender wisps of smoke swirling before my eyes before dissipating into the air.
Chapter 17. Kira. I move through the encampment silently and stealthily, trying to avoid seeing Javano. Despite my avoidance, I catch myself still looking around, hoping to see him. It's a conflicting feeling, knowing I need to stay away, but hating having to hide. Needing to stay away, but wanting to do anything but that. When I do run into him, My inner voice screams at me to flee. I duck behind a shelter, pressing my back against the rough wood. My heart hammers wildly in my chest as it processes the confrontation I wasn't prepared to have. My hands tremble at my sides as I try to breathe through the racing beats of my heart. I can't silence the thoughts of Javano, the memory of his intensity, both a blade and balm to my very soul. My thoughts swirl with confusion and self-doubt. Did I make the right choice by putting distance between Javano and I? He doesn't walk alone. A thinner orc walks beside him, chattering away. But Javano doesn't seem to hear him at all. Dark purple circles line his eyes, and his knuckles have been bandaged. He's been fighting. He hasn't been sleeping. That's not my problem, I mutter to myself. He'll only be worse off if I don't leave him alone now. As darkness descends, the camp quiets, fires burn low, and people retreat to their shelters for the night. Still, sleep evades me. I toss and turn restlessly on my bedroll, thoughts of Javano plaguing me. I remember the feeling of his calloused hands gentle on my skin, the smouldering look in his deep eyes when we were alone together. A shiver runs through me, and I sigh in frustration. This is impossible. What's impossible? I almost jump. Avalon stands beside me, eyebrow raised. I don't answer. Look, she says. I know that you've been training with Javelon to try and be the one chosen to go through the portal. Like you haven't been training with Caspian. Her face does something complicated. I need you to stop, Kira. It has to be me. I'm better at deflecting the magic. I don't think that's something you can learn. You're not better. You're just better at reading Caspian. I try to push my frustration and anger aside, but everything with Javelon has already wound me up. This isn't some game to win. I know that. I don't want you to go. I swallow past a painful lump in my throat. I can't lose you. Avalon pulls me into a fierce hug. Never. But how can she say that? How can she know? I pull back. I look at her face, so like my own, and I want to shake her. Why can't she understand that I need her to be safe? Is this how Javano felt? Perhaps my choice to distance myself was rash. There is an undeniable connection between Javano and I, something I've never felt with another. For a moment, I want to run after him and forgive him, to hug my sister and pretend that everything is fine, to enjoy the time I have left here. But I can't. As much as it pains me, I know staying away from Javano is the wise choice. And as for my sister, she might hate me when I take her place going through the portal. But I don't think I could live with myself if I stayed behind. Caspian strolls past, sees us both, and seems to pick up speed. Avalon's jaw twitches. I'll see you tonight, she says absently, already following him. I make my way to the mess hall for dinner, and then to my tent. Avalon isn't there. I lay in my bedroll, staring up at the canvas roof as it sways gently in the night breeze. The camp is quiet now, only the occasional snap of burning wood breaking the silence. Sleep continues to evade me. I know that avoiding Javano is the right thing to do. Our duties here require clear heads and focused attention, neither of which I can maintain in his presence. When I'm with him, my heart races out of control, my thoughts grow muddled and distracted. I lose myself in his smouldering gaze, the feeling of his rough hands on my skin. He awakens a reckless abandon in me that I cannot afford right now. He makes me want to stay, and for the sake of everyone I need to leave. Still, my heart aches with his absence. I miss the smiles we shared across the camp, the stolen moments we grabbed alone. I miss the way he looked at me, like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. There was an undeniable connection between us, unlike anything I've ever felt before. In my mind's eye, I see his face so clearly, the strong line of his jaw, his raven mohawked hair falling across his forehead. I hear his deep, rumbling laugh, that never fails to make me smile. I think of long days out under the sun, watching the sweat glistening on his skin as he trained. I remember stolen moments in shadowy corners, his lips urgent on mine, my hands tangled in his hair. These memories wrap around me like a bittersweet embrace. Even in avoiding him, I cannot escape his pull. He haunts my thoughts, my dreams. I toss and turn, wrestling with the conflict in my heart. I know staying away is wise, but oh, how I ache for his presence. Outside, the night breeze sends the canvas roof swaying gently above me. I hear the soft snap and pop of the campfire gradually dying down. The moonlight filters through, casting everything in a dim, silvery glow. Looking out into the quiet camp, I imagine I can see the outline of Javano's shelter across the way. As I lay here in my tent, in the darkness, I vow to stay strong and do what must be done. This mission is bigger than either of us. That doesn't mean I don't still want him. I wish I could talk to Avalon about this, and I kick myself for not bringing it up sooner. This sort of talk is what sisters are for, isn't it? And speaking of Avalon, it's odd that she's not back in our tent yet. Usually she's the first of us to turn in. Lately it seems as if she's done nothing but sleep, probably because she's been waking up so early. Eager to do something besides mourn a relationship I destroyed, I search for her. I slip silently through the darkened camp, the embers of dying fires casting an eerie glow on the sleeping forms around me. As I walk through the camp, hushed voices drift through the canvas walls. I pause outside, not wanting to interrupt an intimate moment, but as the voices grow louder, I recognize Avalon's voice. She's in Caspian's tent. I look through the open flap into Caspian's shelter, surprised to find Avalon locked in a heated argument with him. It needs to be me, you know that. I'm stronger than her. Caspian snorts. Both of you are fooling no one with this selfless act. I will take whoever can help me best. His voice lowers, and I can't hear the rest of his words, but Avalon flinches. You are a fool if you think your reckless plan will succeed. Avalon fumes, arms crossed over her chest. Caspian bristles, eyes flashing. It is a risk worth taking if it means saving my people, your people too. They stand nearly nose to nose, bodies coiled tight as springs. The air crackles with tension. This discord between them is deeply troubling. Their contrasting styles have complemented one another in the past. But tonight, there is no balance, only blistering rage. I retreat to the shadows before they see me. I feel the heat of guilt settle in my bones for even considering abandoning my mission. If Avalon or Caspian is faltering now, it's up to me to make sure we succeed. I cannot let my conflicted thoughts of Javano distract me from my duty. The portal must be closed. There is no room for hesitation, no matter how drawn to Javano my heart and body feel. I make my way back to my cot, feeling my responsibilities settling firmly on my shoulders once more. I cannot let my conflicted thoughts distract me from my duty. As I walk through the camp, the glowing embers of dying fires cast an eerie amber light upon the ground. Shadows dance around the sleeping forms bundled tightly in blankets and furs. I think of how unaware they are of the monumental task ahead of us. The very fate of our world rests in our hands. I lift my eyes to the heavens. The inky darkness is splashed with glittering stars. They seem to be speaking to me, willing me to stay strong. I steady my nerves and make a silent vow. There is just one more beautiful memory I'd like to make, one that will last forever. I want to return to that river where Javano and I first spoke. I want to dance with him among the whispering trees, our bodies pressed close. I want to get lost for a moment in a world where only we two exist. Then I'll say goodbye.
Chapter 18. Javano. The bed groans under my weight, the wooden frame creaking like the hull of a ship caught in a storm. I roll over for what feels like the 100th time, eyes wide open, staring into the darkness of my quarters. The captain's orders echo in my skull. "Take some time off, Javano." But rest is a stranger to me now, as distant as the stars that hide behind the thick clouds above. My thoughts turn to Kira. Despite our recent argument, she alone seems to see beyond my scars to the man within. But does even she see me fully? The darkness that still lurks, no matter how I try to bury it? I can still feel the weight of my armor, its absence leaving me exposed and hollow. My mind is a battlefield, waging wars with phantoms of regret and missed chances. My life, once an adventure, has dulled to the monotony of discipline and bed rest, if that's even a real thing. A knock against my tent flap shatters the silence like glorious mace against a shield. A second knock, only slightly more insistent. "Go away," I growl. Another soft knock follows against the tent flap. "By the ancestors," I mutter, throwing my tangled sheets aside. With heavy steps, I approach the door, irritation coiling in my chest like a serpent ready to strike. Who dares to disturb my bed rest? The door groans as I yank it open, ready to unleash a torrent of anger, but the words die in my throat. Kira stands there, her presence a stark contrast to the dark corridor behind her. Moonlight glints off her raven hair, framing her face a soft glow. "Kira?" My heart kicks against my ribs, a drum of war calling me to attention. "What are you doing here?" Her green eyes lock onto mine, and I see the storm within them, the tempest that has swept her to my doorstep. She takes a hesitant step inside, her slender form slipping past me like a wraith seeking refuge. "Javano, Her voice falters and she swallows hard. "I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't know what came over me." Her gaze drops and she wrings her hands together, the gesture betraying her unease. "Can we make up?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it roars in my ears louder than any battle cry. I study her face, searching for the signs of the struggle that must have led her here. In the dance of shadows across her features, I find the sincerity that has always drawn me to her, the courage that defies her delicate appearance. She's here in front of me, bearing her soul like a warrior baring their neck to the executioner's axe. Vulnerable, yet defiant. "Of course," I finally answer, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging within. "We've faced worse than this, haven't we?" I offer her a smile, an olive branch. God, I missed her. "Javano," she breathes, the word infused with a hesitation that seizes my chest. My name on her lips feels like a balm and a curse all at once. "I missed you so much." I don't wait for more words, for there are none that could encompass what I need to convey. Instead, I close the distance between us. The space of the small room seems to constrict as I pull her into my arms, my hands finding the familiar curves of her back, the softness of her hair. My lips find hers in a kiss that speaks volumes, silencing the cacophony of our troubled thoughts. It's a kiss of longing, of forgiveness, a melding of souls that have been torn apart and now seek solace in one another. Her response is immediate, fervent. It fans the embers of a love that refuses to be extinguished. We kiss, our bodies pressed together as if they could merge into a single entity. Our movements are desperate, driven by a hunger that has been starved for too long. It's a dance as old as time, yet as fresh as the first drop of rain after a drought. Her fingers trace patterns over my skin, igniting trails of fire wherever they roam. In this moment, as our breaths mingle and our hearts beat in unison, a realization dawns upon me, piercing through the lingering shadows of my mind. This woman, Kira, with her defiant spirit and tender touch, is my mate. She's my mate. The love of my life, the very essence of my being, the one I've been both avoiding and searching for my entire life. In her, I find my purpose, my redemption. She is the sanctuary amidst the chaos of my warring mind. Together, we are stronger than the tyranny that seeks to divide us, mightier than the brutality of the battles we've endured. Kira, I murmur against her lips, the urgency in my voice betraying the depth of my commitment. You're my everything. Her eyes lock onto mine, a storm of emotions swirling within their depths. There's fear there, and uncertainty, but above all else, there's love, a fierce, unwavering love that mirrors my own. Javano, she whispers back, and in that single word, I hear the echo of my own heart's pledge. We are bound by something greater than ourselves, something that transcends the darkness of our world. And in her arms, I find a haven, a light that guides me through the bleak landscape of my existence. Here, with her, I am home. As her lips move against mine with a fervor that ignites every fiber of my being, I cling to her as if she is the lifeline cast across the chasm of my despair. The taste of her, as intoxicating as the rarest elixir, floods my senses, drowning out the world beyond. Kira, I breathe out, my voice a hoarse whisper breaking through the rhythm of our fervent embrace. I've missed you. Her fingers trail up my spine, setting aflame the scars and memories etched upon my skin. In her touch, I find absolution. In her presence, the war-torn fragments of my soul begin to weave themselves whole again. She replies with kisses, a brushstroke painting visions of a future painted in hues of hope and rebellion. She pulls back just enough to gaze into my eyes, and it's there in the depths of her stare that I see it reflected, a love fierce enough to defy empires, to challenge fate itself. Don't stop touching me, she pleads, her voice laced with the weight of all we've seen, all we've lost. Never, I vow. As we give into our passion, the world outside fades to insignificance. There's only her and I. Mine, I declare, the word a solemn bond that binds me to her for all the nights to come. Yours, she echoes back, and in that moment I know. She is the one I'm willing to commit my everything, my heart, my blade, my very existence. Always. I press my lips against hers, feeling the soft warmth of her mouth. My heart pounds as our kiss deepens, her body melting into mine. This is no ordinary desire. This is destiny. In my soul, I know she is the one. My mate. My love. The missing piece of me I've searched for all these long years. No other has stirred such passion and tenderness within me. I cradle her cheek, our breaths mingling as we break apart. Her eyes shine like stars, and in their depths, I see our future. Marriage, children, growing old together. My sword, my service, my life, all hers. For the first time, the war-torn brutality of this world seems conquerable. With her by my side, no dark elven tyrant could break my spirit. You are everything to me now, I rasp, meaning each word. She smiles softly, touching her forehead to mine. No more words are needed. Our rebelling hearts have found home.
Chapter 19. Kira. The heavy burden of what is to come weighs heavily on my shoulders, but I push it aside for this one perfect moment. With trembling hands, I reach up and cup his rugged face, feeling the rough texture of his skin against my palms. My thumbs brush over his tusked lips. I cannot do this without you, I whisper. His eyes flare with intense desire as I crush my mouth to his, their warmth melting away all of my doubts and fears. Our kiss deepens, all else fading away until there is only us, suspended in this fragment of time. My hands trace the solid muscles of his arms, the strength coiled within them promising protection, comfort. I imprint the feel of him on my memory. With a low groan, he lifts me effortlessly and carries me to the furs. His hands and lips worship my body. each caress imprinting himself on my soul. I guide him over me, our bodies joining in ancient rhythm. Here, in this sanctuary of skin, I shelter from the bitter storms ahead. Tomorrow I may march to my death, but tonight I live. I rebel against the tyranny of fate with the only weapon left to me, love. This memory will armour me in the battles to come. But for now I surrender, letting passion consume me. I cup his face in my hands, memorising every line and contour. My heart aches knowing this may be our last time together. I press my lips to his, pouring all my love into the kiss. I love you, and I need this now, before it's too late, I whisper. I want to feel you, to carry this with me always. Whether I return or not, I'll have this. His breath catches as he crushes me to him. Our mouths meet again, desperate and hungry, like there isn't enough time. By the gods, I love you above and below. I take my top off, settling onto his lap. With fumbling hands, we tear at each other's clothes until nothing separates us. I gaze into his eyes, shining with passion and promise. Gripping his shoulders, I guide him inside me. We gasp as our bodies join. Take your clothes off, I command, sucking his tongue into my mouth. My fingers tangle in his mohawk as our mouths clash again, tongues wrestling. His musky, earthy scent floods my senses, intoxicating me. Fear and longing war within me, but longing wins out. I know then I will surrender completely to him tonight, heedless of the peril. Let tomorrow bring what it will. Tonight, we feast. What lies in store for our lovers? We've had to censor this section because it's a bit too spicy for YouTube. Want to hear the full, unfiltered story? Head over to worldsofprotheka.com and use code YouTube30 to save on the complete pulse-pounding experience. Let's get back to the story. There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me. Chapter 20. Kira. A few hours before the moon begins its descent, I awaken and slide silently from Javano's bed. The camp is still and shadowed, enveloped in slumber's deep embrace. It's time to prepare. Kira? He yawns, not fully awake. It's too early. I have training, I lie. I'll see you after. Another lie. He believes me. I watch him for a long moment as he settles back to sleep, memorising the planes of his face. Then I return my tent. Avalon isn't there. Something sinks in my chest. I know I can't say goodbye to her, but I wanted to see her one last time. I write her a note instead. Nothing incriminating, nothing that will tip her off. I love you. K. With practiced movements, I unzip my pack and pull out my gear. A set of form-fitting leather armour, a black cloak with tattered edges, and weapons tucked into various pouches attached to my belts and slip on my boots, specially designed to muffle any sound as I move. Finally, I grab a bag filled with rations and additional weapons, slinging it over my shoulder. As I fasten each piece in place, the weight of my equipment is a reassuring presence against the daunting task ahead. My lips murmur a prayer to the gods of death and retribution as I unsheathe my blackened blades, their sharp edges smirking in the fading light. My parents may have had other gods, but these are the gods I know. I carefully braid and tuck my hair under a hooded mask that only reveals my glinting eyes, honed to perceive what others may miss. Now I am a ghost prepared to slip between the world of men. Stepping from the tent, I pause to gaze skyward. The expanse above glitters with countless stars ripe for plucking, their chill luminance bathing the world. A rasp of leather marks my grounding breath, all else muffled beneath this eternal balm. I pause, granting myself one last indulgence to remember Javano's sleeping form, softened by dreams, his breaths whispering prayers for tomorrow's battles. I don't want to leave him, but duty beckons, and, with a last longing look toward camp, I turn away. Night swallows my identity. I am but a nameless whisper upon the wind, unseen and unknown. I become the shadow's shadow, haunting amidst the dim fringe of the forest camp, moonlight guiding my stealthy steps. The horses stir gently as I approach, senses keenly attuned after moons of fleeing pursuit. In the darkness of the night, I see her silhouette, a gorgeous midnight mare with sleek muscles and a delicate frame, and as I approach her, she lifts her head and whinnies softly, acknowledging my presence. I lay a calming hand upon her shoulder, feeling breath and pulse below silk skin. Steady as the beating heart of the forest is her calm demeanour. She shall serve my mission well. With practiced care, I saddle her in absence of light. My hands move with confident precision, their movements smooth and sure even without sight to guide them. Not a single buckle clinks or strap slaps unfastened. Each piece is fastened in silence, ready for our journey ahead. Pouches and packs are arranged on my horse's sides, secured tightly and positioned for easy access without disturbing our stealthy approach. My blade and bow cradled in their sheaths, waiting patiently until they are called upon to sing their deadly songs. With the cloak of night and careful preparation, we glide through the land like phantoms. I crouch low on the horse's back, murmuring gentle words in her ear to keep her calm. Wrapped in darkness, we become one with the vast void, melting into the hazy stillness of the night. We are submerged in its depths, moving with the ebb and flow of shadows. Only the slight pressure of my legs against the mare's sides betrays our journey. All other senses are focused on maintaining this elusive drift, unseen and unfelt across the open plain. As we leave the rugged mountains behind and make way towards hewn stone and shadowed crags, I pull on the reins to bring the mare to a stop. This is where their territory begins. From here on out, only stealth will guide me forward. Dismounting in muted grace, I send my noble companion back to the forest's shroud with an affectionate touch, her task as my ghostly vessel fulfilled. Now it is my turn to slip unnoticed within the enemy's lair. I slip from her side on feet padded soft as velvet. Each sense hones to a cutting edge as I glide the final stretch alone. It falls to me alone to slip unseen into the heart of the enemy's lair. It falls on me alone to stop this war. The only sound is the soft whoosh of the wind through the mountain and the distant rustle of leaves. But my ears are attuned to the slightest noise, my mind keenly aware of any potential danger. I blend into the rock-born night surrounding the dark elf threshold. Scanning the outcrops reveals no silhouettes on watch, yet I remain coiled, ready as a shadow to vanish or strike at the first sign of discovery. Each gliding step embraces the stealth arts Javano imparted so well. Fluid and deliberate, I flow ever closer to the cavernous moor yawned wide before me. Dust mingles with dank stone, and something darker, hinting at unspeakable secrets witnessed in the deep. Caspian's maps say that this is where the portal is hidden. Behind me, I hear the gait of a heavily armed patrol. I lower myself to the ground and scan the rocky outcrops for any sound or movement, but sound is unreliable, echoing against the encouraging cavern. I stay low, poised to either attack or disappear at a moment's notice. The sound of heavy footsteps grows closer and closer, approaching with purposeful strides. My breath catches as a large shadow turns the corner, its silhouette blending with the textured stone. Then, another set of footfalls intrudes, strong and determined. My heart races. Panic threatens to overtake me, ingrained instincts for survival kicking in. But years of enduring violence have honed my instincts even further. "I tire of this," an elf complains to a taller soldier. Both are dressed in dark leather armour. Both have feet bound in fine silk shoes. "The war will be over soon," the other says, yawning. "And then what? We'll rule this sinkhole? It makes Rach look like a palace in Perthos. The orcs can have it." The elf snorts. Both of them walk past, completely unaware that they just walked inches from death. But it's better not to raise any alarm unless necessary. I wait until their conversation fades. Fear is a blade that may cut both ways if wielded rashly. I stand up and cautiously make my way towards the entrance. The ominous realm hums with something that makes me want to flee. Something that makes every hair stand on end. Flickering light from within casts an eerie glow around the stone archway, a warning of the dangers that await inside. Steeling myself, I take a deep breath and prepare for whatever challenges lie ahead on the other side. After our training, Caspian told us what to expect. We've practiced this many times. Of course, Caspian was supposed to come with us. Guided by Caspian's instructions ingrained in my mind, I navigate the winding halls with precision, always on guard for any traps or enemies that may be waiting. My focus narrows to a razor-sharp edge, blocking out all distractions except for my purpose and the potential threats lurking in every corner, my feet slipping from floor to floor with meticulous care. Faint echoes taunt me. Are they approaching footsteps, or just the wind whispering through ancient granite? I steady my heart and clear my mind. Each step feels like an eternity, but I have trained for this moment. I must remain detached from the panic that threatens to consume me. Finally, the Gothic archway looms ahead, etched with pulsing runes that seem almost alive in the dim light. My senses are sharpened to the point of pain, and my muscles tense and ready for any sign of danger. The weight of failure and the promise of hope rest on this threshold. All of my struggles have led me to this pivotal moment. With fate's turn, the destiny of nations may be decided within. I slip into the shadows of the portal room.
Chapter 21. Javano. Is Kira here? I blink awake. Kira stares down at me. No, Kira's sister. Avalon. She said she had training. Avalon blinks back furious tears. She clutches a note in her hand. Yeah, well, she lied. An alarm floods my senses. The space beside me cold, her absence screaming in the silence. The deepening pit in my stomach confirms her lack of presence. I throw back our fur pelts, half hoping to find her curled beneath, still sleeping. But the furs are cold and empty. Her pack is missing from its place by the door, along with her cherished knives. Avalon's jaw is tight. Caspian says that his maps are missing. She went alone. A surge of adrenaline, hot and powerful, rushes through my body, spurring me into action. My heart races as I sprint towards the stables, my footsteps pounding against the ground like a drum. Raw anger fuels me, driving my legs faster with each step. When I reach the stalls, I take in a quick breath and assess the available mounts. Every muscle in my body is primed and ready for this moment. My years of experience kick in, and I smoothly mount a spirited mare, giving her free rein as we burst out of the gates. The horse's hooves thunder against the earth, kicking up clouds of dust and dirt as we speed towards the diminishing darkness. As dawn begins to break on the horizon, my hope that I am not too late increases tenfold. Kira's trail is not easy to spot amidst the chaos of nightfall, but my trained eyes catch subtle clues. Broken grasses swayed by the night winds, disturbed patches of earth. I intently follow her path, analyzing each detail with precision and determination. The first rays of dawn touch the horizon as I reach the edge of dark elf territory. The reality of Kira's decision slams against me like a physical blow from an enemy's sword. But I push forward. I will find her and bring her home safely. Dread coils around my spine like an icy snake. What was running through her mind? Was last night supposed to be a farewell? I approach with caution, each step precise and calculated. My mind, trained for battle, calculates the potential risks. It doesn't look good. An elf passes by only a few steps away, his coal-black eyes scanning for any signs of intrusion. My muscles tense with the desire for retribution, but I hold back, holding my breath until he disappears from view between the leaves. Once the sound of his movement fades, I stand up slowly and resume tracking. Stay hidden, Kira. I'm coming for you. Nothing will stand in my way, not when my anger and love drive me forward towards her side. I slip through the entrance like a wraith, gliding from one shelter of shadows to another. Undetected and unnoticed, my senses constantly assess any approaching threats. Suddenly, a loud gasp shatters the oppressive silence, followed by the unmistakable sound of steel clashing against steel. Without hesitation, I sprint towards the source of the commotion. As I round a corner, 2 elven guards are caught off guard by my sudden appearance. Drawing my twin blades from their scabbards with lightning speed, I unleash a fierce battle cry. The once murky halls are now illuminated by flashes of steel as I strike down each foe with ease. My thirst for vengeance drives me forward, closer to my ultimate goal, finding and rescuing Kira from herself. My fury knows no bounds as I launch myself at the remaining elves, unleashing a flurry of powerful strikes. With each fallen enemy, I am one step closer to saving her. Nothing will stop me now. The elves bear their weapons, but too late. I'm upon them like a whirlwind, fury fueling my merciless onslaught. They fall before me. One attempts to sound the alarm, but my sword flashes and silences his cry forever. The others meet a similar end, their final breath lost in steel and blood. No rescue will come for them. I am a force of calamity loosened within their walls. Let it echo down these corridors like the rolling thunder of a coming storm. The clash of blades and my furious cries resound down the passageways. The commotion draws ever closer to where I feel it, a strange, dark energy pulsing ahead. My heart pounds in time with its rhythm, blood roaring in my ears. This must be where she has gone, into the maw of some magical storm. I know she is near. I pour on more speed, feeling her presence like a beacon guiding me true. Her danger is my sole focus now, eclipsing all else. No, I must not let panic rule me. Calm and care will serve us better, as will swift action. Kira, hold on. I'm coming for you. These black-hearted wretches will not claim your life, not without tasting my steel first. The pulsing grows louder, a malevolent vibration I can feel in my bones. I round the last corner at a dead sprint, Kira's fate a razor's edge before me. Through swirling mists of arcane power, a silhouette emerges, Kira's familiar form amidst the chaos. A beacon of hope and fear, she stands defiant before a towering dark elf sorcerer, blade locked with his crackling staff. Too many enemy warriors stand ready to add their magic to his. A roar tears from my throat at the sight of her in danger. Kira's head snaps towards me, surprise and relief mixing on her fair features. Kira! With renewed fury, I fling myself at our foes. My battle cry rings through the chamber as blade meets blade and spell casts against spell. I am a force of nature, desperation lending me strength beyond reckoning. Her name burns on my lips with each vanquished enemy. Soon, we face the sorcerer alone, and I stand ready at Kira's flank, a united front against whatever terror he can summon. Our gazes meet across the chaos, a fleeting moment that feels like an eternity in its intensity. This doesn't look like training to me. She smiles even as her eyes fill with tears. You should have stayed. Never. The dark elf dressed in long robes fires magic at her. It looks much stronger than Caspian's magic. Darker, more powerful. Kira blocks it with ease, reflecting it right back. In that split second amidst the fray, there is a connection beyond words. Love and devotion radiate from her eyes as she sees my unwavering pledge to always be by her side. With a simple nod, our unspoken vow is sealed. Together we turn towards our final challenge, an army of elves in a swirling portal crackling with dark magic. As long as breath remains in my body, I will not leave Kira's side. If the darkness comes, I will stand with her. The sorcerer fires more magic, so overwhelmingly bright it's nearly blinding. The elven soldiers fall back, blinking furiously. I raise my sword and attack.
Chapter 22. Kira. My body trembles with exhaustion as I desperately hold onto my swords, knuckles white from the strain. Every muscle in my body screams for rest, but I cannot give in. The battle rages on around me, chaotic and deafening, but through it all, I can hear Javano's fierce battle cry. The elven sorcerer's magic is strong, perhaps stronger than Caspian's, but without strategy. His power has led him to be lazy, and he's not accustomed to a human being able to fight back. "Is that your only trick?" he asks. I fire more of his own magic back at him, making him stumble. "It's a pretty neat trick, you have to admit." The sorcerer sneers, his dark eyes burning with malice as he raises his hand to cast another spell. But I am ready for him. With a swift movement, I deflect the attack with my sword, sending sparks flying in all directions. The sorcerer growls and charges towards me with a loud roar. I parry a blow from the sorcerer and counterattack with a powerful strike of my own. He stumbles back, surprised by my sudden surge of strength. In that moment, I see Javano emerge from the chaos, his sword gleaming in the dim light. With a centering breath, I lunge forward into the thickest fray. Months of training with Javano's skills and my own intuition converge. My weapons become an extension of hand and will, a flashing sliver amongst the sorcery-spawned shadows. I parry steel and spells with equal force. Adrenaline dulls all sensation but the dance of blades. A heady battle frenzy claims me, gifting me strength and swiftness. I parry magical attacks and hold the sorcerer at bay while Javano handles the rest. We move together fluidly, a seamless unit of lightning-fast attacks and defences. Where his swords whirl, I slide beneath to hamstring foes from below. When my dagger flashes upwards, his arm is already braced to shield my blindside. Our synchronised attacks flow effortlessly, cutting swaths through the thinning hordes. Elves fall around us, overwhelmed by the tempest that is our united front. Step by lethal step, we carve our path ever closer to the portal, pulsing with dark energy just ahead. Its chill beat calls me onward. Our foes' numbers dwindle to nothing in our wake. Soon only the sorcerer himself bars the way to victory. From the corner of my eye, I catch a flicker of movement. An elf has broken from the pack, blade lengthening towards my unguarded heart with lethal intent. "Look out!" Before I can react, a blur of steel and fury intercepts with a battle cry. Javano's body slams into the elf with the force of a battering ram. Their collision is a shower of sparks as weapons meet in a clash of sheer will and desperation. Javano's irises burn with a feral protectiveness that could level cities. His enraged snarl is a vow that none shall touch what is his. With a primal roar, he drives the elf backward under a blistering assault. What begins as a duel swiftly transforms into a one-sided execution. Each gouging hit rains down Javano's wrath upon the fool who dared think to harm me. With a final twist, the elf's arm falls free in a spray of crimson. Chest heaving, Javano eyes me with a savage tenderness. His snarl transforms into a weary smile, and I know his fury was only to keep me from harm's reach. Breathing heavily and covered in sweat and dirt, I turn to face Javano, who looks just as exhausted, but also relieved to have found me unharmed. Without saying anything, we embrace each other tightly, the weight of our shared experience heavy. But without time to celebrate, we're interrupted as the ground trembles with approaching fury. "The rest of the elves will be coming soon," I say. "I can fight our way out." I shake my head. "They'll move the Dawnstone. I have to do this now." Javano looks torn. I wipe my tears fiercely, steeling myself for the final push. He follows me toward the portal. Its ominous hum washes over our senses in deep, disturbing waves. Malevolent power pulses from the archway in a palpable miasma, almost as though it seeks to overwhelm the mind and corrupt the soul. But within, our goal awaits, a pedestal upon which rests a midnight-coloured stone, pulsing with an umbral energy that infects my sight like an oil slick spreading over water. The Dawnstone. I grip my dagger tighter, steeling myself against its sway, while Javano squares at my back. Whatever profane magic this stone weaves, I will cross the portal and sever its bonds over our realm. I stumble. A woman pushes past me toward the podium. "Avalon!" I scream in shock, but then movement in the doorway catches her eye. Dark elves press forward, seeking to overwhelm us while distracted. Crap. "Stay back!" I shout to the elves. From the corner of my eye, I watch Avalon caught in some trance before the stone. But I dare not look away from the enemy before her for even a moment. Javano staggers up beside me, sword gripped tightly. "Avalon, please."
Chapter 23. Javano. Standing before us, Avalon looms like a figure in a trance. Her hand reaches out, as if drawn by some unseen force, towards the ominous stone altar. The air around shimmers, emanating from the Dawnstone perched upon its surface. Its crimson mist seems to twist and distort reality, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that sends shivers down our spines. I can feel the power radiating from the stone, beckoning us closer, its malignant hum filling the chamber, each note plucking at our life threads like the strings of damned souls. Power ripples from the artifact in nauseating waves, and almost physical pressure bears down on our minds. A darkness seeps inward from the corners of my vision. It slithers over the stone walls and stretches tendrils into crumbling fissures. The only light comes from the crimson Dawnstone, casting Avalon and the altar in its hellish wash. Her fingers hover so close to making contact, yet remain just out of reach of whatever blasphemous force now calls to her across the gulf. A tension grips the room, or perhaps it resides in our own tightening chests. Whatever destiny now hangs in the balance, its outcome will drag us all screaming into the abyss. I reach for Kira, our hands finding anchor in each other's desperate grip. Kira's shout slices through the thick air, her fear and desperation crystal clear. "Avalon, no!" But it is too late. Avalon's fingers slowly graze the pulsating surface of the Dawnstone. Scarlet arcs of energy erupt, snaking around her arm in a vivid display of crackling power. Her fate is sealed. A gasp escapes Kira, her horror reflecting my own inner turmoil. But there is no time to mourn what is coming. From the darkness, a figure emerges, Caspian, swift as a diving hawk intent on its prey. With a bolt of magic, he shoves the elves in the hall to their knees. He lunges for Avalon, hand outstretched to pull her away. But the portal has its own designs. With an awful groan, it spirals open, and a vortex of some foreign energy spews forth. Tendrils of pure force whip around the stone chamber. One such tendril finds its mark. With an unseen force, it enwraps both Avalon and Caspian whole. Their startled cries are cut short as the energy pulls them inward. "No!" Kira screams. In an instant, they vanish, dragged beyond the portal's shimmering veil into whatever realm or abyss may lay beyond. As suddenly as it came, the magic recedes. The dormant stone and lifeless portal bear witness to their absence. "Avalon! No!" Kira is in tears, nearly senseless with grief after bearing witness to her sister's selfless sacrifice. The ground beneath us quakes violently. "We've got to move," Now! I lift up and under her arms, dragging her out of the rapidly destabilizing cavern. Everything around us trembles, its ancient stones crying out under new strain. Dark magic seeps through cracks like poison, eating away at foundations. Chill winds howl as walls begin crumbling, shedding dust and rubble. The trembling room convulses with each crashing fall, its death throes growing more violent. But Avalon, we can't reach her now. I can only pray that she and Caspian succeed in breaking the portal's link to Protheka. I'm sorry, Kira. She's gone. The floor lurches beneath our feet, pitching wildly. From the high arched ceiling, debris rains in a choking storm. Through the haze, shadows dance atop falling masonry. Creaks and booms assault our ears, a terrible death rattle building to a crescendo. This once secret place is consumed from within, destruction spreading with each new fissure. Kira grabs my arm, her nails biting through leather as terror widens her eyes, and I pull her tight against me, bracing for an almighty collapse. One way or another, this place will bury what has happened here in its ruins, unless I can find an escape before we are entombed amongst the falling stones. As the cavern falls apart around us, Kira clutches at me in panic, but I will not let fear control me. I am her shield. Swooping low, I grip her firmly and lift with all my strength. Though she protests, safely in my arms is where she will stay. My path is clear. Secure Kira's survival above all costs. Dust stings as I charge through the collapsing chamber. Nothing will breach my guard around her. She buries her face against my breastplate, resigned to my protection. The exit still eludes us through this fading vision of hell. But I swore an oath to shield this woman, and by the gods I will deliver her from this doomed place alive. The tunnels will not become our tomb. I will see us free or fall while trying. As I charge on through the caves, Kira clutches me tighter still. Her tears stream down, scalding trails through the dust on my armor. Her sobs cut through the crashing din, each one twisting the knife in my own heart. But I swore to Kira she would survive. That is all that matters now as we race the ruin enclosing around us. Kira whimpers softly, face buried against me. My steady embrace is the lone pillar in the storm. I channel all focus to guiding our passage, blocking out all save guiding her freely once more. Like a beacon in the night, a faint light ahead casts shadows against the swarming dust. The cave entrance, but it shrinks with each advancing tremor. New strength floods my limbs at the goal's sight. With a yell, I pour on more speed. Kira gazes up at me through red-rimmed eyes, and I nod once, a silent promise kept. Then I clutch her tighter and launch us forward into the eye of fate. Blinding daylight washes over as we breach the shrinking gap. I tumble out with Kira still cradled, rolling us free of the enclosing dark. Harsh sun bears down on face, but never has its light been more welcome. Behind us, an almighty crash signals the ruin's end. Dust clouds billow as the hideout implodes in a final furious roar. But here in the quiet field, Kira and I breathe on, clasped in life's embrace while the ghosts of the past are sealed away. The battle is won, but the war still rages. The dark elves are still on the planet, and we have to wait to see if Avalon will be able to stop their magic. But for now, we have survived. As the dust begins to settle, I gently lower Kira's shaking form to steady earth. Wrapping arms around her quivering shoulders, I draw her tear-stained face up to meet my gaze. Behind us, the hideout's ruins collapse with finality, a concluding roar of vengeance upon our enemies. Their designs are foiled, yet bittersweet victory remains. Kira's grief is a raw, living thing pouring from her shaking form. All she has left is the sister bonded to her soul, now ripped away into a darkness we may never understand. I can offer little comfort beyond my arms around her, and vow to keep carrying her from this doom. She's gone. Her voice is raw, little more than a rasp, and it tears at my heart. She saved us all. My calloused palms cup her warm cheeks, wiping trails away with my thumbs. And we're alive. You're alive. She sobs so hard her entire body quakes. I'm alone. You're not alone. Not in this. I'm here. I kiss her forehead. I'm here. Chapter 24. Javano. We stand in the aftermath of our escape, our surroundings bathed in a thick layer of dust and debris. I turn to look at Kira, her once wild eyes now meeting mine with a mixture of exhaustion and lingering fear. Our clothes are covered in grime, clinging to us like a second skin, the tremor still racking her body as she relives our harrowing escape. The scents of stone and iron fill my nostrils, remnants of the walls that only moments ago enclosed us. I take Kira's hands in mine and steady my breath. Gently, I unfurl each finger, winding her shaking hands back into my grasp with care. I grasp her tightly, pulling her against my chest. She looks up at me with wild, desperate eyes, but I refuse to let her panic take hold. Look at me, I murmur, tilting her chin until our gazes lock. Her wild eyes brim with grief. Gently, I press her hand over my own steady pulse. Feel this? I'm here, and I always will be. Slowly, her racing heart begins to match pace with mine. Fingers clutch tightly at my tunic, holding on as if I alone anchor her in a swirling chaos. I thread our hands together again. As long as I draw breath, nothing here will harm you. Slowly, she relaxes into my embrace, fingers grasping handfuls of my cloak like it's the only anchor in a world gone formless. I press a lingering kiss to her hair, hoping my steady presence may drive back some part of the darkness descending fast. As her breathing begins to mirror my deep, even breaths, I allow my voice to drop low, a soothing rumble meant for her ears alone. Avalon is strong, I whisper against the shell of her ear, hoping the familiar names may lend further comfort. And Caspian, he is clever and resourceful above all. You really think he would let Avalon die? Let his plan fail? It's just out of the question. Unreasonable if you really think about it. My lips brush her temple in a feather-light kiss. They'll watch out for one another. As long as they are together, there is a chance they may discover a path back to our side once more. My words are soothing, but internally I worry. Can we trust Caspian? I just hope he and Avalon manage to destroy the stones, and I hope for Kira's sake that Avalon makes it back home somehow. Between my arms, Kira's rigid frame softens by increments. Her hands, twined around my back, grip not with panic's ferocity, but fledgling seeds of recovered hope grasped lightly in my steady reassurance. Strength will come in time to stand on its own once more. As my whispered words and breaths stir the wisps of dust-caked hair at her temple, I feel Kira slowly unwind in my compassionate embrace. The warmth of my exhales fans along her skin, sparking embers deep in her eyes where shadows had gathered thick. Her grip upon my back relaxes by degrees, fingers no longer gouging but gently clinging with returned affection. The rawest edges of her sorrow, I sense, start to mend beneath the balm of my gentle assurances. Where panic and void had threatened to swallow her, hope, fragile yet resilient, begins to take its earliest root once more. Lifting her face from my chest, Kira's wild eyes reflect cracks of sunrise breaking through the night. She tilts her head to meet my gaze, her eyes shiny with emotion but unwavering. You really think so? I lean in to gently press my lips against hers. I know so. It's just the principle of the matter. You really think Caspian would risk looking foolish? Impossible. A hint of a smile is lost in the dust, still choking the air. Remember how hard you had to train in order to beat your sister? Kira nods, and then her chin crumples. It's my fault, I should have. No. She's strong. She had to be, in order to beat you to the stone. Everything proceeded as it should. I gesture at the elven stronghold that is now nothing more than a pile of rubble. Our side was months away from losing the war, maybe even weeks. If you hadn't come here today to try and save your sister, We might have waited too long. To try. Her voice breaks on the last word. I failed. Maybe not. I brush her short hair from her face. You trained as hard as you could, which drove Avalon to train even harder. She's prepared for what's to come, I know it. I'm furious with her. How do you think she would have felt if the situations were reversed? Kira doesn't answer. She found me in my tent with the note you'd written. She was distraught, heartbroken. I kiss her forehead. I don't blame her. When I realized what you'd done, I was a mess. And without Caspian... Kira's eyes squeezed tight. It was foolish. But it's done. The aftershocks of the cavern's collapse still shake the ground. And Caspian is with your sister. They'll find their way back. As our lips come together, a palpable electricity courses through us, crackling and igniting with each passing second. As I kiss her, I taste the salt of her tears. Let's go home.
Chapter 25. Kira. Javano finds the Hokin he rode to the elven camp beside a stream, waiting for his return. Wordlessly, he pulls me up beside him, and we ride our mount back to the Orc encampment. Hyzen stands at the gates. Immediately, Javano unmounts the Hokin and bows his head in respect. "We felt the ground quake," Hyzen says. He tilts his head as he studies both of our faces, which are caked in dust and grime, and Caspian and Avalon are missing. Grief stabs my chest, but I ignore it. I have to cling to the hope that Avalon will return. I can't bear any other future. Hyzen frowns. "Is it done?" "They crossed through the portal," I say. My voice shakes. The elven stronghold was destroyed in the process. Relief hits the Orc leader like a physical blow. His broad shoulders sink back in relief, and the deep, craggy lines in his face stretch into a broad grin. "It is done," he calls. News always spreads quickly in camp, and rumour spreads even faster. Upon sighting us, a raucous cheer made up of bellows and battle yells greets us. We're heroes. But I don't feel like a hero. My sister is gone. The crowd swarms us before we make it 10 steps past the gate. "You've saved us." An Orc slaps Javano's back. He moves to hug me, but a sharp look from Javano has him nodding respectfully instead. "The twins did it, and that damn elf!" "Where is your sister?" A silent pause overcomes the greeting party as Avalon's absence is noted for the first time. The cheers falter, turning into curious and then solemn stares. I turn my eyes to the ground, the tears threatening to spill. Javano pulls me against his side. We were separated from Avalon and Caspian, but they are strong. They are warriors. I have no doubt they'll find their way back to us. Javano's voice is steady and strong. Captain Zalius steps forward, a complicated mix of triumph and empathy on his face. "You two clean up and rest. Tonight we shall begin our celebration. We may be missing 2 of our best, but they'll need our strength and belief in them if they are to make it back." He gives Javano a nod and strides away, the triumph in our plight impossible to hide. "Come, Kira, we'll go to my tent and have some time to decompress." Javano rests his hand on my lower back, guiding me in the direction of his tent. "Okay." My voice sounds hollow and empty. "Sit here in this chair, and I'll be right back." I sit, defeated and meek. Javano is quick and returns with a towel and a bucket of warm water. He reaches out and lifts my chin, gently wiping the dirt and grime away. "She will return, you know. Your sister is a great warrior, much like you, Kira." His deep eyes look into mine, imparting wisdom and sorrow for what I am going through. "You keep saying that." I bury my head in my hands. For everyone else, this is a celebration. For me, it's my nightmare. This is everything I worked so hard to prevent. Javano kneels before me, taking the towel and dipping it into the water. Gently he begins to clean the blood and grime from my skin, his touch soft and soothing. "Do not lose hope," he says. "Your sister has the cleverness of a fox and the fierceness of a bear. She will find her way back to us. You keep, and I'll say it every damn day until she returns." With tender strokes, he washes the remnants of battle from my arms, his eyes never leaving mine. I feel my worries begin to melt away under his patient ministrations. "There now," he murmurs. He rinses the towel again and brings it to my face, wiping away the tear tracks on my cheeks. His movements are unhurried, speaking of an endless well of compassion. As he cleans my neck, his fingers brush against my skin, comforting me. My breath catches at his nearness. Still, he continues his work steadily. When he finishes, he takes my hands in his own. "You are so very strong, Kira. Never doubt that." I cling to his words like a lifeline. I lay back on the cot as Javano begins to tend to his own wounds and cleans himself. His words resonate within me as I try to calm the worries of my mind. Though my worry for Avalon remains, his compassion has kindled a small flame of hope in my heart. I watch him clean himself methodically, admiring his lean strength and quiet focus. Beyond the tent walls, I can hear the sounds of celebration beginning: laughter, music, the clinking of goblets. I let my eyes fall closed, comforted by the sounds of what has become my home. Visions of Avalon dance behind my eyelids, her bravery, her wit, her stubbornness. She carries a piece of this community within her, and it will guide her steps. When she returns, we will hold a feast to eclipse all others. The image of her vibrant face keeps my spirits aloft. I drift into sleep's gentle arms, the camp's music fading around me. I dream of dancing with Avalon once more, my sister's laughter mingling with the crackling fire. We spin faster and faster, leaves swirling, until we both dissolve into the wind, scattering joy across the land. I wake to Javano's hand on my shoulder. "I don't feel like celebrating." He kisses my shoulder and holds me close. "Then we'll stay in." The celebration doesn't cease for a straight week. Javano is there for me every day, even the days grief has a chokehold on my throat. He brings us food. He takes me to the river. He reminds me that hope isn't lost. He helps me heal as much as I can. On the last day of the celebration, taking my hand, he leads me from the tent. The air is filled with music and laughter as the surviving warriors feast and make merry. Great bonfires blaze against the night sky as we eat, drink, and share tales of our victory. On this last day, I allow myself to get swept up in the festivities. For the first time in weeks, the shadow of fear and uncertainty lifts from my heart. I dance and sing late into the night, the wine warming my blood. Javano stays close by my side, making sure my cup never empties. His quiet strength and companionship are a comfort amidst the boisterous crowd. I teach Javano how to dance, showing him the steps and rhythms of our people. Though he moves tentatively at first, soon he is twirling me and swaying with ease. We circle the bonfire together, hand in hand, our bodies coming together and then drifting apart with the music. The drums beat faster and faster as the night wears on. The warriors stamp their feet and clap their hands, urging us to keep pace. Javano pulls me close, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. Our steps quicken until we are breathless, neither one wanting to be the first to falter. The music carries us, two beings lost in the intimacy of our closeness and enjoyment. Javanos' arms twirl me and sway until I can't dance another step. At last, I stumble, dizzy from exertion and wine. Javano's strong arms catch me before I can fall. We stand frozen for a moment, pressed against each other, our hearts thundering in time. Slowly, he brushes a loose strand of hair from my flushed cheek. I know he feels the spark between us growing stronger than it ever was. When the music ends, we slip away unnoticed. He leads me through the darkened trees until we find a secluded glen, lit only by starlight. We can hear the booms of the drums and music, and the cheers of our people in the distance behind us. There, we kiss eagerly, hungrily. I run my hands over the muscular planes of his back, thrilling at his closeness. He cradles my face as if I am the most precious, delicate thing in the world. He holds my body close to him. My heart thunders against the firmness of his chest. We break apart with breathless laughter. The chill of the air hangs in the fog of our breaths. He pulls me close once more, dipping down to place a less hurried kiss to my lips. I raise my eyes to his. In an unspoken decision, we slip back into the festivities, our brief absence having gone unnoticed. As dawn approaches, we stumble exhausted but joyful to our tents. Javano walks me to mine, his arm wrapped securely around my waist. We pause at the entrance, the first light of morning illuminating his handsome face. My heart flutters as he leans in close. "You are the bravest warrior I know," he whispers, before pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. I close my eyes, wishing the moment would never end. I curl up on my blankets next to him, and he holds me as I sleep. In my heart, I know that my sister will return soon. With these sweet thoughts, I drift into untroubled sleep. If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
Forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
Well, what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine. Chapter 26. Javano. It's beautiful out tonight, Javano. Kira sighs, her head thrown back against my chest as she looks up at the stars. Not nearly as beautiful as you, I reply. My voice is low and deep with the rasp of emotion caught in my throat. This has become our ritual, taking late-night walks through the encampment. These moments between are infinite, as if no one else exists but us two. The camp has been reduced to the quiet noises of nighttime. Muffled snores come through the canvas walls of the tents we pass. An occasional laugh rings throughout the night, but it's otherwise still compared to the daily hustle and bustle. We move through the encampment and past the training grounds. My heart still flutters when I think that, just a short time ago, Kira and I were meeting for me to mentor her. I never would have thought that this is where that would lead us. The rushing water of the river gets louder as we get closer to it and further from the camp. The nerves of what I plan to do here tonight are buzzing beneath the surface of my skin. Remember when we skipped stones that day? Kira asks with a laugh. You sunk everyone. She looks at me with teasing mischief in her eyes. That seems like so long ago, I say, joining in her laughter. So much has changed so fast, Kira says breathlessly. But I'm happy with where it has led us. She stares off into the distance, her mind clearly wandering to her sister. She turns to face me. The light of the moon reflects in her deep brown eyes. I gaze into Kira's eyes, losing myself in their warmth. As am I reply softly. I reach up and gently tuck a strand of her silky hair behind her ear, my fingers lingering on her cheek. She leans into my touch, her lips curving into a smile that makes my heart skip a beat. We continue our walk, the sound of the rushing river guiding our path. The moonlight filters through the trees, spilling onto Kira's skin and making her glow. I find myself unable to look away from her beauty. The contours of her face are so familiar to me now, but she still takes my breath away. We reach the edge of the river and sit down on a large rock that juts out into the water. She turns to look at me, and my heart stutters at the sight of her soft smile. "What are you thinking about?" she asks, her hand reaching up to brush a loose curl behind my ear. "Just how lucky I am to have you," I reply, my voice barely above a whisper. She leans in and presses her lips against mine, sending chills down my spine. We stay like that for a moment, lost in each other until she pulls away with a content sigh. "I love you," she says, and I can feel my heart swell with emotion. "I love you too," I reply, my voice filled with all the love and adoration I hold for this woman. I take a deep breath before continuing, knowing that what I'm about to say will change everything. I hesitate, getting lost in the thoughts of a future with her, hoping that she feels as strongly for me as I do for her. We sit in comfortable silence as again I prepare myself to take the leap. "Kira," I say after a while, "there's something I want to ask you." She lifts her head to look at me, curiosity shining in her eyes. I take a deep, steadying breath before continuing. "From the moment I first saw you, I knew you were special. With every day we've spent together, every conversation and laugh we've shared, I've fallen more and more in love with you." I pause, gathering my courage. This is proving to be more difficult than I could have imagined. She holds my gaze with her beautiful brown eyes, patiently waiting for me to gather my composure. "I can't explain to you the joy I felt when you came back to me. I thought I had lost you forever." My heart stutters at the memory. It was such a dark time for me, all those days spent days apart. "I couldn't have truly stayed away from you forever, Javano." Kira rubs her soft, delicate hands on my arm. The sensation spreads warmth to my core. I gaze deeply into Kira's eyes, losing myself in their depth. "There is nothing in this world that could keep me from you," I reply softly. I reach into my pocket and pull out a small wooden box I had carved just for this moment. Kira's eyes go wide with surprise, and joyful tears begin to glisten as I gently open the box to reveal an intricate ring I had designed for her. The band is woven from strands of silver, gold, and copper, representing the past, present, and future we will share. In the center lies a brilliant crystal. "My dearest Kira," I begin, dropping down to one knee before her in the human way. "You are the light that guides me through the darkness, my compass when I am lost. Being with you has brought meaning to my life in ways I never thought possible." I take a deep breath, my heart beating wildly in my chest. "I can't imagine spending another day without you by my side," I continue, my voice trembling slightly as I reach for her hand. Kira brings her other hand to her mouth as happy sobs escape her. I forge on, my voice thick with emotion. "I want to face all of life's adventures with you by my side. Will you make me the happiest man in the world and agree to be my wife?" "Yes," Kira exclaims through joyful tears. "Of course, I'll marry you." She throws her arms around me in a warm embrace. As I hold her close, my heart feels as though it may burst from sheer happiness. This amazing woman has agreed to be my partner for life. I gently take her hand and slide the shimmering ring onto her slender finger. It is a perfect fit, as if it was always meant to be there. I pull her into my chest, wrapping my arms around her as the intoxicating allure of her scent in the slow breeze envelops me. "Does this mean you'll be my mate? Forever?" I ask, whispering the words into her hair. This moment feels so surreal. I never would have thought this a possibility. Kira's face lights up with a grin as she nods her head. "Yes, Javano, I will be your mate forever." She looks up into my eyes once more, and I gaze down at her, enamored with pride that she'll allow me to call her mine. Tears of happiness stream down her face, and I kiss her passionately, feeling as though nothing in this world could ever tear us apart again. We slowly break apart and sit in comfortable silence. I watch the rise and fall of her chest as she leans against me. We sit there for a while, basking in the glow of the moon and the warmth of our love. In that moment, I realize that this is where I truly belong, by Kira's side. A gentle breeze rustles through the trees, carrying with it the sweet scent of wildflowers and earth. A family of deer startles nearby, startling us out of our trance as they bound off into the distance. The gentle twittering of birdsong begins again, heralding the awakening of a new day. Kira leans into me, her hand tracing patterns on my chest, her palm finding solace in the rhythm of my heartbeat. The grass beneath us is soft and springy, still damp from last night's rain. As she places her head back on my shoulder, I can feel her hair tickle my jawline and neck. The cool morning air chills our skin, but seems invigorating now that we share such a profound connection. I take her hand in mine again and brush my thumb across her engagement ring, watching as the crystal catches the light and dances with color. It reminds me of how joyful this moment has been, how much I cherish this woman by my side. A smile tugs at the corners of my lips as I think about how truly fortunate I am to have found her in this vast world filled with unknowns and darkness. "Come on," I say softly, standing up and pulling her with me. She places her delicate hand in mine, and we turn back the way we came. As we make our way back to camp, hand in hand, I can't help but feel grateful for all that has happened. And now, as we settle into our new life together as mates, I know that nothing will ever come between us again.
Chapter 27. Kira. It's been a little over a month since Javano proposed to me in the middle of the night by the river in what was the most memorable and romantic experience of my life. Just him and I are in our favourite place. It was a perfect gesture in professing his love. The camp has been bustling more than usual the past few days as they prepare for a mating ceremony between Javano and I. It's supposedly a huge ordeal involving practically the entire race of orcs. Anyone who is someone is going to be in attendance to see the great warrior Javano, the mutilator, marry his forever mate, me. I wish Avalon could be here to see it and join us, but my life needs to continue with or without her. However, I haven't given up on her yet, nor do I intend to. I will have much to share with her upon her return. "Kira!" Morga the seamstress pokes her head into my tent. "I have your dress for the final fitting." "Thank you, Morga. I trust that it will fit just fine." I smile to myself, hoping Javano will be impressed by my appearance tonight. She grunts in agreement before leaving the dress on a chair close to the tent's entrance. Tonight, Javano and I will become bonded to one another forever. It's almost surreal. I never would have expected this to be my future. I'd never let myself imagine anything beyond destroying the portal. I walk over to the chair and pick up the simple yet stunningly beautiful dress, running my fingers over its smooth material. It's a deep brown linen with intricate gold embroidery around the hem and neckline, accenting its simplicity perfectly. As I hold it up in front of me, I marvel at how the sunlight catches the threads, making them sparkle like across my skin. I step behind the screen to change, admiring how the dress hugs my curves without being too revealing or restrictive. Morga grunts from outside as I pull on a pair of delicate lace leggings that match the straps on either side of the dress's neckline. I slip my feet into soft leather boots that come up just past my knees, all designed to highlight natural movement without distracting from what truly matters, our bond and union tonight. I emerge from behind the screen, taking slow steps towards Morga while smoothing out imaginary wrinkles. The seamstress raises an eyebrow, but nods approvingly after examining every angle of my form. I spin around slowly under Morga's watchful gaze, taking in every detail myself, how the light plays off each fold. I am not well versed in orc customs, but I get the nagging feeling that Morga is none too pleased with assisting me, a human in preparation for the mating ceremony. It is not enough to derail my excitement. I am doing this as a favour and out of respect for Javano's customs. Morga gives me a gruff nod and starts yanking a comb through my hair. Ouch, Morga, you're pulling my hair. My eyes water from the sting. Sorry, she grumpily mutters, along with something else said under her breath. I chalk it up to her overall grumpy demeanour and focus on the task at hand. When Morga finishes yanking the tangles from my head, she smooths it down and places a crown of delicate white flowers intertwined with vine onto my head. Stay here until you're called for, she growls as she exits my tent. It is probably best to not disobey her order. I walk back over to the mirror and take in the sight of myself one last time. I feel light. My nerves are alive with excitement. As I stand before the mirror, admiring my reflection, the sound of drums begins to echo through the air. It's a slow, steady rhythm that seems to pulse with anticipation. The sun is setting over the horizon, casting warm golden light across the landscape as if in celebration of this momentous occasion. I can hear the rustling of leaves and the shuffling feet of approaching guests. Mead and spiced wine are being passed around amongst the attendees, their laughter and chatter intermingling with the music. The smell of roasted meats fills my nostrils, making my stomach rumble in response. Curiosity gets the better of me, and I slowly pull back the entrance flap to my tent to peek outside. I'm careful to not let anyone see me, lest I meet the wrong end of Morga's disapproval. My breath catches in my chest as I take in the way the forest has been transformed. The orcs have done an impressive job preparing for this event. Banquet tables have been set up underneath towering trees adorned with flickering torches that cast dancing shadows on the forest floor. Colourful streamers hang from branches above, swaying gently in the warm breeze. A large bonfire crackles in the centre of an open space near the clearing, where Javano and I will exchange our vows. The ceremony is about to begin, and I can feel the energy building up around me like an invisible force pulling me towards it. I catch sight of Javano across the camp and pull myself back into the tent with a gasp. Is orc tradition anything like human traditions? Is seeing me bad luck? Before I ducked back in, he smiled at me, large and genuine, so maybe it isn't such a huge thing. Kira, it is time. Morga grunts into the tent, breaking me from my worry. I take a deep breath, feeling the way my lungs expand and the way a smile spreads across my face. I am more than ready to meet Javano. I slip out of the tent, taking in every moment of the beautiful and enchanting scene. The drums intensify their beat, signalling that the ceremony is about to begin. A hush falls over the crowd as they gather around the bonfire in anticipation. My heart races as I spot him standing at its centre, tall, strong, broad shoulders held proudly. His eyes lock onto mine as he sees me approach. His face breaks into a wide grin when he spots me in this magnificent ensemble Morga helped prepare. It warms my entire being like honey on a cool morning dewdrop on a blade of grass. He extends his hand towards me invitingly, and I take it into my own. We turn to face the crowd, and a cheer rings loudly through the forest. Mentally preparing myself, I take his hand and follow him towards the centre of the clearing, where an elder orc stands before a makeshift altar. The bonfire crackles and pops rhythmically, as if in approval of our union, casting dancing shadows on the faces of those gathered around us. We kneel before the elder, our fists clenched tightly together as a symbol of our bond. He speaks words of love and unity in their ancient tongue, blessing our union. A chorus of delighted hoots fill the air at this, followed by claps on their backs and stomps of approval. They accept us as one now. Javano and I rise to a standing position and face each other, our hands still clasped together. There are no rings exchanged here. Instead, we intertwine our fingers, sealing our vows with a physical connection that runs deeper than any metal band could ever do. His eyes bore into mine as he speaks softly. I promise to love you always, through thick and thin, to protect you from harm, to provide for you as best as I can, to give you the freedom you crave while still keeping you safe within my grasp. My voice echoes his sentiments. I promise to stand beside you, no matter what comes our way, to fight beside you when needed, to support your decisions, to share your burdens and lighten your heart when possible. The crowd erupts once more into cheers and chants before breaking into song. Our eyes lock, and for a moment, it's just the two of us in this vast sea of celebration. His eyes are full of love and devotion, making my heart swell with emotion. Javano pulls me into his strong arms and kisses me with a promise of passion in our near future. His hungry mouth claims mine and leaves me grinning and breathless when we part. What happens now? I ask, looking up at him through my lashes. Now we celebrate, he says. A smile of pure joy lights his entire face.
Chapter 28. Javano. We dance until I can't feel my legs, the pounding rhythm of the drums echoing in my soul. The firelight flickers across our faces, painting us with a wild, primal glow. Kira's laughter rings out, infectious and joyful, as she twirls in my arms. This night is so magical. I don't ever want it to end, Kira says, her eyes sparkling with delight. We can make it last longer, I reply, pulling her close. She gazes up at me, her skin glowing golden in the firelight. Just you and me, dancing under the stars. You look so beautiful in the firelight, I tell her. In any light. Flatterer, she laughs. But please, keep going. I'm intoxicated by her presence, her warmth, her energy. We drink until I don't care about anything else but this moment, this night. The wine flows freely and we toast to life, to love, to the freedom of the open road. Our friends join us, their voices blending into a joyous chorus. For a brief moment I forget all my worries, all my responsibilities. The entire camp's mood is ecstatic since Avalon and Caspian sacrificed themselves to close the portal. But the Dark Elves aren't entirely defeated. Not yet. At the edge of the dance circle, I see Hazian consulting with the rest of the elders. There is still a war to be won, even though the tide has certainly turned in our favor. But tonight, I have better things to think about. I pull Kira against me for yet another dance. Much later, when our feet are sore and our voices are hoarse, I carry Kira to our tent. She laughs. This is ridiculous. Put me down. I've been told this is human custom. She is small and light in my arms, her head resting on my shoulder. The stars twinkle above us, a blanket of diamonds in the sky. The cool night air brushes against our skin, reminding us that we are alive. I lay Kira down on our makeshift bed. One day soon, when the war is won, I'll build her a fine cabin. Something permanent, something to raise a family in. But for now, this is all we need. I brush my thumb over her lips. Hi. Hi. She smiles at me, more joyful than I've seen her since her sister disappeared. But there's still a hint of sadness in her eyes. I suspect it will remain until Avalon returns. But I suspect that Avalon, if she's anything like her sister, will fight with everything she has to come back. Guiltily, I privately thank whatever deity is responsible that Avalon crossed the portal instead of Kira. I'd been prepared to throw myself into the portal with her. Mortality be damned. I wish she could have seen this, Kira says before scrunching her face. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep bringing her up, especially not now. I wish she could have been at the ceremony, too. I sit beside Kira on my bed, running my hands along the thick furs. You can always mention her. She's a part of you, and I love all of you. Kira pulls me in for a kiss. I love you too, all of you. She means it. She's seen me at my most vicious, and she's never flinched. What a wonder it is that I found someone like her. I try to keep our kiss comforting, but I've wanted her all night. When she bites my lower lip, I can't help but groan. "It's our wedding night," she whispers. So it is. I push her onto the bed. Outside it's dark, but a bonfire still rages. Enough to see her lips part as I run my hands beneath her dress and over her thighs. "Do you have any idea how beautiful you look tonight in this dress?" My hands tighten, pulling her legs apart as I crawl between them. "How much I wanted you out of it." Her laugh is breathless. "Show me." I do. I lavish her with attention, kissing every inch of her skin I can find, slowly undoing her dress, until at last she's naked and writhing on the bed. These two are really heating up. This chapter's heat level is off the charts, too much for YouTube, in fact. But you can catch every sizzling detail at worldsofprotheka.com. Don't forget to use code YouTube30 for a hot discount. Now back to where we left off.